You're listening to episode 322 of the Major Issues Podcast, and on this episode, it's a secret. No, we're tackling 2004's Secret War for its 20th anniversary. The Major Issues Podcast starts right now. Hello, everybody out there in comic book land. My name is George Serrano, aka The Don. And if you're listening to this, you can only be here for one reason. It's a secret. No, it isn't. It's a brand new episode of the Major Issues Podcast, brought to you each and every week by ComicBookClique.com. And as always, I am never alone. Sir, if you could please introduce yourself.
What up, y'all? It's John Escudero, aka Yogi.
Yogi is here, and it's no secret. He's not alone. Other sir, if you could please introduce yourself.
I am the publicly traded war, Gregory Thomas, aka GT Rebirth.
I got GT Rebirth here. I got Yogi here. It's the DirtSheet Radio crew. We're over here talking about a book that is celebrating its 20th year anniversary this year. A book that ends up creating a bunch of different circumstances and storylines spilling out of it. 2004's Secret War. Now, this is the very first time I'm actually reading this story.
Wow.
I tackled all the wars and all the crises. The crisis. Octopussy. I tackled all the major ones. This one slipped under the radar for me.
That's the idea.
Yeah. But I guess when it comes to this book being on people's radar, Yogi, do you remember the first time you remember hearing about this story? And where did it fall in the midst of your comic book reading fandom?
This would have been when I first started digging into Marvel lore. I found out that they did the event books every year, and I went back to Avengers Disassembled. Not even Avengers Disassembled. I went back to fucking Kree Scroll War. And I had read like events. And then I saw that beginning with Avengers Disassembled, they were like connected in a different way. Like Brian Bendis was almost driving the entire Marvel universe. Like what happened in his Avengers books directly affected what led into the event book of the year, which directly affected the rest of the Marvel universe. So essentially, you could ride the train from Avengers Disassembled to Avengers versus X-Men,
the train,
and you'd have a clear, complete picture of what the Marvel universe was for all those years. Just jumping from event to event and basically reading whatever Brian Bendis book took place in between. So Secret War fell.
I keep doing it myself.
I can't remember exactly where in the timeline it fell either when I would have read this.
I will find out for you, but continue.
But I wouldn't have heard about it on its own. I would have read it on a list. Like it would have been like the next book. So it was just like the ongoing adventures of the Marvel universe. This might have been before even Civil War.
This is technically before the beginning of House of M.
Okay.
It actually ends around the same time of House of M. I believe it goes. Yeah.
I guess after Disassembled. A little bit after that. Damn, really early. This is early as hell in my comic reading. Thankfully, it had so many familiar characters in it. It was like,
yeah, so I won't even count that. The event before this is Infinite Abyss, which is a limited series. Yeah, mad partial clones of Thanos try to destroy the universe.
Oh no!
Yeah, and then the next one is The End, but that's that's just
I did read that. Yeah, I read that.
And that returned in 2020. And then it's Secret War, and then you start going into the House of M, like you were saying, Planet Hulk, etc., and so forth. It goes House of M, Civil War, World War Hulk, Secret Invasion, Siege, Fear Itself, Avengers versus X-Men, Infinity Axis. You could probably write it all the way to Secret Wars, right?
Yeah, if you want it, but it ends because I feel like Bendis is driving the train until um Avengers versus X-Men, and then he gives himself like a little ending with Age of Ultron. Because after that, Hickman takes the Avengers books, and then he drives the train to Secret Wars. But he had been doing his own thing, right? It kind of
Yeah.
almost doesn't connect at all. It just more connects to the Fantastic Four stuff. So, like, I feel like the Bendis era ends with, I would say, Age of Ultron. I would write from Avengers Disassembled to Age of Ultron, and you'd have a
Inter-
very good time.
Interestingly enough, he comes back after Secret Wars for Civil War 2.
I don't talk about that. We don't talk about Bendis
A lot
after
of
I
lot of
like
people don't.
yeah.
And the funny
He-
thing is, the same year that Civil
yeah.
War 2 comes out is the same year that DC starts championing that he's coming over there to go do Superman stuff.
Yeah, it was bad because this was the person they chose over
Bendis was
Jonathan Hickman.
coming.
I don't want to get into this
Oh, he
horrible
came.
time and super.
He came.
He came and
I-
he left.
I will
That was
say
a big failure.
this is probably my favorite time of reading. This time of them finding their footing and creating this shared narrative between the universe. GT, do you remember this book being on your radar at all? Do you remember hearing about this book? Have you read this story before?
No, this is the first time I actually read the story. I had a slight awareness of the story only because of a particularly, not a particularly unique, but I guess a fairly unique perspective. An atypical perspective. My awareness of the story comes from the fact that this story I had found out was merged into the Civil War story by way of the Marvel Ultimate Alliance 2 video game.
This is true.
Because I remember, that video game was pretty much sold, if I'm not correct, on the Civil War thing, almost exclusively, right?
Yeah.
Because that was the hot comic.
Which
Obviously,
side are you on?
yeah, that was the hot comic.
That was the thing.
It was the whole thing. So it was like pick Cap, pick Team Cap and pick Team Iron Man. But when you actually start to play the game just begins with Secret War.
Right.
And then it just pivots over to Civil War and then loops its way right back into Secret War with its own version of it. And I'm just like, this wasn't the story.
Yeah.
I remember thinking that was pretty cool when I first found out about it. I don't know how much I would enjoy it if I went back and tried it today. I guess I'll leave those memories where they are.
Are you saying you will leave the memories alone?
The way it is how it used to be.
Don't change a thing. I don't know.
I will say that I did go back and check out those cutscenes from Ultimate Alliance, and it's actually colored my opinion of this story a little bit. It's changed my opinion a little bit about this story.
Interesting.
Did the game do it better?
I don't. It's or the order of events. I think the game did the order of events better, and I'll explain more as we get into the story. But one of the things that I found about this story is like there's a bit of a mystery, there's a bit of intrigue, there's a lot of espionage, right? And I feel like right when it gets into the meat of it, it kind of ends.
Yeah.
And I don't know if this is by design of like we've raised a lot of questions that we really can't answer, so we have to kind of big CGI fight kind of end it. But I did think it was extremely interesting, especially given the time that it was published. We were talking a little bit off air about this. This is shortly after 9/11. We're knee deep in several wars in Afghanistan and Iraq. I will end up joining the military 3 years after this story comes out, and 4 years after this story I'm in Iraq myself. So there was a lot to be said about what the government was doing, what the government wasn't doing, what the government was allowing things to happen that probably shouldn't, and vice versa. And this is steeped in that. And I guess you can argue that they kind of got a lot of rope to play with that idea throughout, right? This 10-year run. There's a lot of sort of this idea of like overstepping your boundaries, the government and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, yeah. There's a lot of I guess you could say there's a lot of Patriot Act going on there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like somebody smarter than me had mentioned, because it definitely, this is something I would have kept up on because I don't think about that sort of stuff. But like a lot of it smells of, oh, we we went to this foreign land for, for weapons,
Yeah.
because I was sure that there were weapons there, and I
Yeah.
didn't find any. But what I did find was a problem.
Yes. Yes.
Don't you
And
see? They attacked us now. It was terrorism. I knew it was coming.
I
You
knew
caused it, you fucking moron.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of that there, like chicken or the egg, with some of this stuff of like, who's pointing the fingers where. And we were also having this kind of mini conversation off air. This is another story that highlights how duplicitous Fury can be, and how his life is just a series of secrets, wrapped in each other. When you see Fury at the depths that he's at in this and in other stories, him and the Samuel L. Jackson portrayal seem like complete opposites. Yeah. I wonder if we put the Nick Fury character on ice post this new revamp of the MCU, and if we didn't, if he would be more like this, if he would be a bit more, because I feel like he was kind of like that in the first Avengers or whatever. Yeah. He was kind of a little bit like I'm keeping secrets from people on the team kind of shit.
I feel like if they were gonna do it at all, they had an opportunity to with
Secret Invasion,
the Secret thing, and
the Nick Fury show.
Like they kind of hinted at the idea that he didn't help the Skrulls, and that's why they were doing this, but they never really took. It didn't really harp on that, Like they had a lot of other problems too, but we don't get into that. But if they were gonna do it, they would have. Man, that's not happening.
Mm.
It's funny that you say that, because like as you're saying it, and I'm just like replaying this story in my head. There's no reason why like that this couldn't be the Thunderbolts. There's no reason why Fury couldn't have. They, instead of doing Secret Invasion, they just have done that.
I heard a rumor that the Secret Invasion storyline was supposed to be a Captain Marvel movie sequel, or
okay,
but this happened, and I don't know if that means that it was gonna be like a B plot to like whatever the fuck else was going on, because it kind of feels like two sides of the same, like the Clique.
I can see them being madder at Carol than at Fury. I could totally see them being like, "Wait, you said, you flew over there and then you never came back."
You fucked them too. They were gonna join forces and beat your ass.
I can see that being a sort of a corporate writers' room decision, just going like, no, we can put the heat on Fury. If you put it on Carol, then she's the heel.
He's had enough. But I mean, I feel like they took the task a little.
We'll have a whole nother civilization blame Carol in her movie. We'll have a whole nother race of people say
that sucks, because that's like
okay, because they were already the bad guys.
Yeah. That's like a direct consequence of that directive from the last dude that was in charge of Disney. Like, we need more shit. Now we can. How many other things must have got split in half? Okay, well then this B plot is going to be a TV show. Oh shit!
Split a half or merge together when you could do a complete Mighty Thor film, and you could do a complete Gore the God Butcher film, and you go squish it together. There you go, got a sandwich.
I like this. It fits. The boss will be happy.
You've got hot sauce in my peanut butter. Ew.
This was I guess talking about the book, talking about the Nick Fury in this book. This was one of my first real Nick Fury experiences. You can imagine how like I see the guy. He's cool though, but I'd never trust Nick Fury as a character. Like I don't think you're supposed to. I don't think you're ever supposed to. And I don't know that the MCU gives you that feeling Like I feel like I can trust Samuel L. Jackson.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, I
like,
was say, by the time you get to the Marvels, he's like an
Steve
uncle.
didn't.
Steve didn't, but he was smart.
No.
Steve, I'm not. I'm not as smart.
And Steve
I'm not
also
as
saw
smart
him
as Captain
die.
America.
Steve also saw him die and come back to life. So
And come back to life.
That's some bullshit.
No, MCU Steve is a little racist, a little bit. That's
Oh
why.
my god!
I'm looking at you with both eyes, Fury. And you know you can't do the
same. He was just looking at him like that anyway.
Yeah.
Fuck, Steve. Fuck.
Old habits. Let me get into the homework of this a little bit. So, Secret War is a 2004 to 2005 comic book storyline published by Marvel Comics, consisting of a central 5-issue miniseries written by Brian Michael Bendis and illustrated by Gabriel Del Otto, and a number of tie-in books. It's loosely based on classified operations told to Bendis by an anonymous high-ranking officer in the United States intelligence community during Bendis's childhood. Oh yeah, I just realized I didn't remember that last fact. So wait, somebody was telling him this as a kid?
Yeah.
So like he's just some kid and like a drunk uncle's like, yeah, and then
that's what I thought.
Went to Russia. And I was like, hey.
That's exactly what I thought. And then let me tell you, little Brian, they weren't supposed to be there. I wasn't supposed to be there. And they don't give a fuck, little Brian. Get away from your Uncle Brian. I told you already.
Give those guys enough Colombian marching powder, they'll do anything.
We had the plan. We had the intel. But they knew we were coming.
Yeah. They always know. I want to play with my friends. They'll leave you too. They'll all leave you.
Don't trust those little.
It'll happen to you.
It'll happen to you. The story involves a large-scale superhero crossover featuring Marvel characters such as Spider-Man, Captain America, Wolverine, Daredevil, Luke Cage, and Nick Fury, fighting a wide array of supervillains who have received high-tech armaments from a mysterious benefactor. I guess we could just get into it and chop it up about the stuff in between. So, full spoilers if you haven't read Secret War, we are getting into it and all the classified information right now. In Harlem, Luke Cage and Jessica Jones return to their apartment where Luke pressures a group of local kids to give up the name of a drug dealer peddling in the neighborhood. However, their plans are abruptly interrupted when they encounter a mysterious woman who unleashes a devastating energy blast, wreaking havoc in their home. Meanwhile, aboard the SHIELD helicarrier soaring over Langley, Virginia, Nick Fury listens intently to a barrage of reports. His attention is drawn to the news of the Harlem incident, which has left Cage hospitalized and in a coma. Fury wastes no time and rushes to the Metro Hospital, where he finds Danny Rand and Jessica Jones by Luke's bedside. Jessica confronts Fury, demanding answers for his sudden appearance. They don't know why, and I love that Jessica susses this out, right? Like, they don't know why this happened, but Fury's here. So it's like, wait a minute. Because he's not like, oh, I heard this happen. What happened? He's like, is everyone okay? He's like, yeah, you son of a bitch.
The fuck are you here? She is a private detective, right? Or private eye, and especially under Bendis's care, like the Alias thing. So he definitely would have had her be smart enough to figure that out on her own. There's a beautiful shot of Nick Fury and Jessica Jones. It's a little over dramatic, but it is the early 2000s where they're like standing in front of each other. It's like shaded face. What can he know? It's very romance novel-esque. It's so funny, actually.
Yeah. And this is the first time since the show that I see an instance where Luke Cage is injured and it's like we don't know how to get to in him because we can't break his skin.
I guess we're talking about the story, but I'm looking at the comic as we talk about it, and I thought of this earlier where we made a joke that, and I don't think it's a joke, I actually think it's dead serious, that Daisy Johnson later on in the book is like 100% traced Angelina Jolie in the movie Hackers. And after saying that and seeing that, I noticed that they're just reusing the same drawing over and over and over and over again.
There
and
is
I'm
one
like,
shot of
what
her
the
face they
fuck?
keep using.
And it's like it's not like it's in the same time. It's just that it's things are happening later and they're just reusing it. So I just complimented this fucking shot of Jessica Jones. And I look at the page. I don't know if I can even show you because you see the camera's not gonna fucking focus on it. She's down there, right? The fuck she's right up there. It's the same.
Oh, it's the same shot.
It's the same on the same page, dog. That's crazy. That's crazy.
Usually you're hoping that the reference isn't close enough for you to remember that you just saw it, but it's all on the same page.
Holy shit. Okay. They must have made this in 5 minutes.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I feel like this all kind of wraps up really quickly.
Get those pages in.
I think he just needed to get rid of Nick Fury. Like he was like, I'll just do this thing. Whatever. I had a drunk uncle that told me this story.
This is a passing of baton. Yeah, this is a passing of baton because you end up getting Maria Hill, right? Who
all he does, like he's setting up all the. It kind of acts like Age of Ultron in a way, where it's like this exists just to branch out into fucking Maria Hill running Shield, Nick Fury going off the radar, Daisy Johnson working with Nick Fury to collect the kids to come back in Secret Invasion, and then become the Secret Warriors. Like all these things stem from this nothing story. So it kind of feels like it serves those purposes more than this. They fucking go through all the trouble of designing these awesome ass outfits and you never see them. You never see them. What happened on this book? I need to do. I should have done a week's worth of research.
I know. All I know is that it was delayed. I think it was supposed to have finished sooner than it did. Which also speaks to creative differences in a way, right? Something must have gone awry at some point.
Tell me what it.
Let me double check that. Whoa, where the heck did I just go?
It's insane, actually.
It was originally intended as a bi-monthly publication, but it faced long delays, and it's 5 issues.
What kind of weird number is that too? What kind of weird number is that for a book too? Like 5 issues. Where's the 6th one?
Now that you say that, to be honest, you would think that there would be one more, and they would answer. They would have pushed this, narrative along a little bit. So reflecting on events from a year ago, Iron Man and Thor successfully capture the criminal known as Killer Shrike. Shield agents Wu and Sitwell, one who knows close-up magic and one who's Hydra, interrogate him, seeking information on his funding resources. Despite his cooperation, Shrike meets a tragic end, falling victim to a deadly trap set by Mason, the Tinkerer. This starts the interesting breadcrumb trail. This idea that why are you a criminal robbing a bank for $50,000 when your gear cost $50 million? Which is a pretty interesting question to raise.
It's very easy to figure out too. Like nobody, like if they were trying to hide that, they didn't hide it very well. It was like we send all these fucking homeless people out there in $1 million technology.
Yeah. And it's all like new faceless people, right? Like I know we get like a whole horde of people at the end, and I almost wonder if they wanted to use anybody worth a damn, anybody like that actually is known, like Shocker or something.
Yeah, I actually found the source image for the one of the Angelina Jolie traces. I sent it from Hackers group chat. It is. It absolutely is. Like we sussed that one out, but it's a one. Like I said, we figured that it's so transparent. There's got to be a crazy story behind this. It's crazy.
Oh, we're definitely posting that. That's gonna be hilarious. Subsequently, Fury investigates the Tinkerer's workshop, finding little evidence. Resorting to outside help, he contacts Black Widow, Natasha Romanoff, who tracks the Tinkerer to Latverian International Airport, where he escapes in a government vehicle. Later, Fury presents a report to the president at the White House detailing the findings of Project Circuit. It reveals a network of technologically empowered criminals, with the Tinkerer acting as their supplier, funded by Lucia von Bardas, the Prime Minister of Latveria. Fury urges decisive action, but the president opts for a diplomatic approach, frustrating Fury. Fed up with the government's indecision, Fury vents his frustrations to Contessa Valentina de La Fontaine, emphasizing the dire consequences of inaction. But in the present, Fury stands by Luke Cage's bedside, haunted by the consequences of his actions, questioning the choices that he's made. So this is the very, very interesting scene where Fury presents all of his evidence to the actual president. He's like, hey, listen, we have all these links, all these ties. And as soon as he mentions that it's Lucia doing this, or he believes it's Lucia doing this, like, things are kind of good between us and her and us and Latveria. So we're not gonna, what is it? Rock the cradle or whatever.
We're not gonna bother that woman.
Yeah, we're not gonna rock the boat. So this is the moment that I believe was done better in the
comic,
in the game.
In the game.
In the comic. Okay, the game.
So
the shit out of the listener. The game, folks.
I think that the way that they lay out this story, it's quite easy to figure out what the twist is, which is ultimately, to not completely spoil it before we get to it, that yes, events happened and people just may not remember them now. That's the twist of this story. I think that it would have been a stronger twist if they would have hid the reveal that the president said not to do it, which is what they do in the game. In the game, they present him giving this information to the president, and it just ends with Fury saying, and they must be stopped or something. And then it cuts to them doing the mission. And then later on, it cuts to, you better not go out there, Nick Fury or whatever like that. So like, we know from this first issue already that Fury's going to do something he's not supposed to do. And later on, we're going to find out that heroes are like, why is everyone so mad at us? And it's like, well, you told me in the first issue that you guys were about to do something that you're not supposed to do. Like, I feel like all the mystery was badly hidden or I don't really feel like it packs the punch that the real betrayal is, that he led them all under false pretenses, which I guess is it's a double reveal, right? In the book is one, I brainwashed you guys.
Following that same mindset, I think that is I think I agree with you that it doesn't pack as much of a punch as if they would have hid that whole fact. But I think he did it on purpose, and I think it was a mistake. But I do think that the reveal is supposed to be not just that he went over there, but that he went over there with the purpose of overthrowing the government and assassinating the elected leader, and using these heroes to do it. Like that, it was an outright aggressive thing. But I still think like it was a mistake to just. Because the whole book is, this, and I know they did it on purpose. Because Peter's nervous about it. What's going on? And they get in a plane and they don't know what the fuck. And everybody's like, "What's going on?" He won't tell us. Something's off the whole time. It does kind of suck at the end. It's like, we knew Fury.
It's one of those things where, and this happens all the time in films as well, right? Where it's like, it's never fun when the audience knows and are waiting for the characters to find out, because you're kind of just like, I wish you can act accordingly to knowing the same information that I know and putting together the same pieces.
Kind of exactly.
So 1 year ago, Captain America thwarts a terrorist plot to abduct their nation's ambassador outside the United Nations headquarters. Nick Fury recruits him for a secret operation. In Hell's Kitchen, Daredevil intervenes to stop a group of drug. yeah, that's when he just says like secret, like he just says like the word.
I don't
in
care.
Hell's
I love
Kitchen,
violence.
not for nothing, but like I'm looking at this team. None of these people have families besides Luke, and Luke is like low level. Like Fury picked these people for a reason, man. That's the other connection I wanted to make. If they would have done it the way I wanted them to do it, I'm saying now with 20 years hindsight,
of course.
If they would have done it where it was revealed that he didn't want to do it, it ultimately becomes like Legends season 1, where you're following a person you think has the backing of his agency to do this mission, but you find out ultimately, no, he's just a guy out for himself who's used people that don't really matter in the grand scheme of things to accomplish a very selfish task, which I thought was a really cool reveal in Legends, which I probably would have sussed if I would have read this. But you know, we still got duplicity abound in all this. So yeah, because I didn't think about it outright, but then I kept looking at the team and I'm like, damn, like this guy's blind. This guy don't got no memories. You know, this guy ain't got no friends. Natasha doesn't hang with nobody. Like if these people died in this mission, I don't think too much is lost. So yeah, and then they recruit Luke Cage. Elsewhere in New York City, Spider-Man returns home from a special evening with his wife, only to find Nick Fury waiting.
That's
Parker
fucked
luck,
up.
bro. She was ready to throw it down.
Peter, I'm gonna bounce on it tonight. And he was like, yes.
There's a strange man in our house, Peter. I'm like, oh my god. And she can't stand his ass. She's like, you're not going nowhere with him. But you know, Peter hears the call to action, so he's got to go. And Fury's like, you don't even got to wear your mask, or you don't got to use the webs. You ain't got to worry about none of that stuff. So the following week, Peter Parker boards flight 456 to Latveria, joining Matt Murdock, Luke Cage, and Steve Rogers. Murdock admits to being in the dark about the mission, and then Wolverine just becomes kind of a drunk asshole. Can you speak to this weird characterization of this character in the book?
I think he's just at all.
I think that's how Brian Bendis sees drunk people. They just get that way when they're drunk. He was I mean, he's not always like a nice guy. I don't it's not too hard for me to believe that he might get a little weird on some drinks one time. I guess alcohol, you know, different alcohol can sometimes give you different moods. He was drinking some light. He was drinking some
Latvian lager.
What's his cup look like? It looks like brown. It's brown liquor. Brown liquor makes you fight. Hey, he's drinking some fucking Hennessy. Or
he's drinking some Brugal. He's getting feisty.
Like
Mama Wanna.
I did think it was I think the point was to show Captain America command respect in that scene. I think
I don't like his drunk hair. Yeah. That's what it is. All right, I'll say it. I don't like his weird drunk hair. He has drunk man hair, and he looks like a fool. Get it together, Logan.
Oh God, the plane.
You're the senior guy on this fucking plane.
The plane is where we get our first Angelina Jolie hackers trace.
Yes.
And now I gotta find where everyone else's face comes from.
It's like, oh, this is a mysterious woman that's just with us, and we're not gonna tell you who she is, and she's not gonna tell you who she is. Yep. Wolverine's rowdy behavior draws Steve Rogers' ire until he quiets it down. Upon arrival in Latveria, Rogers is welcomed by a Latverian official while Natasha guides the team, including the mysterious girl, out of the airport. In a secure location, Natasha reveals S.H.I.E.L.D.'s evidence of Latveria's involvement in funding American criminals. Fury, disguised as a hefty woman, briefs the team on their mission to topple the Latverian government. In present day, Fury finds Jessica Jones, Danny Rand, at Metro Hospital, With the comatose Luke Cage, Steve Rogers arrives, blaming Fury for the situation, expressing prior warnings about such outcomes. It also feels weird to have Cap be a puppet in this. I mean, he's quite literally, depending on who you ask, a national puppet. But
yeah, it wouldn't be the first time.
Nope.
Yeah.
Yeah. I do love I love the scene with Natasha where it's like, what are you doing here, Natasha? And she's like supposedly stifling my femininity in this burger. But
I
it's
was like,
giant.
I was like, that's a little.
I was like, why are
Oh, did you catch the Sabra mention in the first issue?
I was
The
like, why is she
Sabra's
naked?
preventing an attack on the Gaza Strip. The Israeli hero is doing her best to protect the Gaza Strip. I'm like, all right.
Oh shit, I missed that.
Very first, it's when they're all telling Fury a bunch of shit, you know, and he's like, whatever, what's next? That was one of them. I was like, oh, because the big rumor was that Sabra was in Captain America
4, yeah. That's
and then they all bunch of reshoots all of a sudden.
Yeah, right. I it's a peaceful world in this Marvel universe sometimes.
It is. Yeah, so during their anniversary dinner, Peter finds himself overwhelmed by vivid recollections of a harrowing battle in Latveria. Later that night, he wakes up from a disturbing nightmare of the same conflict, prompting him to suit up as Spider-Man. This is one of those instances that I always harp on in movies and stuff like that, where it's like, it really feels like I did something, but it would be absolutely impossible for me to have done something and not remember it. It's like, no, what? Nothing's impossible in this universe, bro. Like, if you think you might have done it, check all your pockets, check your keys, check your cameras, make sure that shit did not get done. And it always sucks that it happens to Spidey. He's having these big PTSD moments, you know. It's that damn Parker luck, I guess.
I kind of wonder how much of this was, because this came out before he officially took over the Avengers books, right?
Yeah.
Or kind of
Mighty Avengers.
Well, but fucking he breaks them up first, and then he does is it New Avengers and then Mighty Avengers? Yeah,
Mighty Avengers is the Civil War team, I want to say, with Carol and.
Well, it becomes that anyway after, because it's like it's New Avengers first. And then eventually the Civil War happens, and then it breaks up into 2 books.
That's what I mean.
You have an underground Avengers that operate outside of the registry, and then you have the fucking cops.
The team Iron Man has to put together. Yeah, the ops. Yeah.
So
that are basically fighting themselves because.
But I think it's interesting that the lineup of heroes here is almost mostly what goes on to be his Avengers: Wolverine, Spider-Man, Luke Cage, Captain America.
Dipping his toes in the water to kind of flesh this stuff out.
But if this was really like a pilot or a test, then how do you still get the job?
I mean, it could be stressful getting all this stuff together. And the thing is, like, with all this Peter Parker stuff, right? I'm reading this, and all I could think of is like trouble sleeping. Come on, someone needs to tell Peter Parker about Magic Mind. You see, we've been talking about Magic Mind a lot over here as part of the Major Issues podcast, and it's because it's become my go-to when I need a little extra energy to get things done, and I don't even need to get bit by a radioactive spider to do it. Overthrow the normal caffeine dictator in your life and say hello to this little green elixir made of the finest ingredients to improve awareness, mood, and overall energy. I started taking Magic Mind alongside my cup of coffee each morning and have seen drastic improvements in my focus and sleep, and I want you to reap the same benefits that I have. Coffee jitters are a thing of the past, as Magic Mind makes me more productive and more focused, and I remember everything that happens. It's not even like my mind was wiped. I get more done in less time thanks to the organic ingredients and the nootropics inside that improve attention, concentration, and cognition. The ashwagandha, that's not from Wakanda, reduces stress and anxiety, which lets me drift into a peaceful sleep each night after kicking butt making content like this. I feel like I'm in a whole new gear with this stuff. I stand behind Magic Mind because it works. It helps me, and I know it can help people like you who are struggling to balance their energy levels on a day-to-day basis. The best part is the people over at Magic Mind are making it easier for our listeners to get in on the trend. Visit magicmind.com/major issues to get up to 56% off your Magic Mind subscription and 20% off a one-time purchase with my code major issues. That's a 56% off your subscription just for being a listener of the Major Issues podcast. It's like we have our own little secret club. Don't tell anybody. Just use the code. Visit magicmind.com/major issues. Get 56% off your Magic Mind subscription and 20% off a one-time purchase with my code major issues. Grab that Magic Mind because, as you all know, a mind is a terrible thing to waste. Speaking of waste, let's not waste any more time. At Mount Sinai, Nick Fury urges Steve Rogers to leave, but Steve insists that Jessica Jones must flee with her child, advising Danny Rand to prepare to relocate Luke Cage due to the high visibility of his condition. Jessica contacts Matt Murdock while standing in the hospital lobby. What I like about this scene is that Steve Rogers is really doing it for me when it comes to urgency. Like he's like, Jess, you and the baby, run! Like, just get out of there. They've seen Luke. They're coming for us all. And she's like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, what are you talking about, bro? Because it still hasn't been revealed in the fullness what's happened. So I'm like, what does he know is coming that he's telling her, you need to get you and the baby the hell out of there? Up to some rough stuff here.
We haven't particularly gotten to it yet, but I particularly remember texting John saying, there's a Captain America moment in here that I expected to show up, but I didn't expect it to show up on issue 2.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, he just knocks the shit out of Fury. Oh, fuck. Did we pass that? I feel like
I think we might have. Is that when he says, what have you done, right? He hits him.
Yeah, he knocked the shit out of him.
Yeah.
Is it that hospital scene?
It's in the hospital. Yeah, it's that first. It's
hard to tell chronologically because it jumps all around, and that's what I'm saying. Like, I feel like the jumping around chronologically is to sort of mask this poorly hidden mystery. Like, you could have just done this chronologically, I feel like, and just omitted, certain things. But I feel like it does a Tarantino to seem more confusing than it is, but when laid out A, B, C, D, it's quite. We went over there and we did some bad stuff, and then they came over here and he said, "This is for that bad stuff you did." So Daredevil returns to his Hell's Kitchen apartment to discover Spider-Man awaiting him. Peter recounts experiencing troubled visions akin to a dream, featuring a battle involving himself, Murdock, Cage, Black Widow, Wolverine, and Captain America, despite no such event occurring. Murdock denies sharing these experiences, and they listen to a message left by Jessica regarding Cage's comatose state. I still feel like Fury still explains later on in the book, but he says like they missed like 2 days. You think you can miss 2 days and not remember it?
I think so. I don't know about figuring it out later, but I know there's been times where I've had really long weekends for reasons that I can't talk about, and fucking and I'll be like, man, tomorrow is Monday or some shit, and I'll be like, it's already Monday. I'll be like, oh,
right. Yeah.
Like, oh shit. So I don't know
Yesterday
how you
was
can
Monday.
live in those first few moments though, like before the realization that days have passed.
Yeah,
It's
but, like my
that's
clothes smell like burning flesh. Does anyone know why my clothes smell like? We can hear you. I hope you're swinging through.
Okay, I hear you now.
Yeah. So deciding to head to Mount Sinai, Daredevil and Spider-Man are assaulted by Diamondback and Scorcher. It's not Diamondback, I know. # not my Diamondback. Even though that suit was equally ridiculous, the one they had in the show.
Oh god, it was so bad.
Powered punches. It's like this. The villains discuss an impending strike before Daredevil engages Diamondback while Spider-Man tackles Scorcher. The criminals flee, prompting Murdoch to urge Parker that they must reach the hospital immediately. Outside the hospital, Rogers informs Fury of an ambush by Lady Octopus and the Hobgoblin during his return to civilian life. Daredevil and Spider-Man arrive shortly after, detailing the attack on Murdoch's residence. Everyone showing up basically to Fury being like, hey, we just got jumped and we don't know why. Rogers reveals that it's been exactly a year since their quote-unquote secret war. Daredevil interrupts, urging them to take action and call for reinforcements. Suddenly, the hospital falls under siege by a battalion of technology-themed supervillains. And I looked these up, including, and you stop me with when you hear your favorite, Lady Octopus, Hobgoblin, Scorcher, Eel, Trapster, Boomerang, Wizard, Goldbug, Spider Slayer, Grim Reaper, Crimson Dynamo, Constrictor, not Metallo, Scorpion, King Cobra, Shocker, and Mr. Fear.
Mr. Fear.
It's like, that please have everybody that you don't plan on ever using ever again.
Right.
Hey, I could give you King Cobra and the Goldbug. I throw in a Mr. Fear.
Yeah, perfect. I just want to kill them all.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I feel like you could have really done this story. Like, this really could have been a 12 issue or even 8 issue, bigger story, and they could have used real tech villains, but I wonder if they were pussyfooting around this whole subject, possibly, or maybe they just had bigger things in mind when it came to the like I said, this finishes roughly around the same time as maybe it was that issue like what happened with Doomsday Clock. Remember how like Doomsday Clock was supposed to set up for the next thing in the DC universe, but it took too long to finish. So the next step of DC universe happened first, and then Doomsday Clock. Like, oh shit! How do we get behind it now? I feel like maybe maybe like you were alluding to, maybe this was supposed to be the setup for multiple things, and then it didn't finish quick enough. So then other things had to start, and then this had to kind of peter out at some point. Because again, like now this is the end of issue 3.
Yeah.
And we just kind of extend what happens in issue 3 into issue 4. There's not really many revelations, and then every bomb gets dropped in issue 5, quite literally.
Yeah.
And then we wrap it up.
It's so bad that I was reading a review online, and the reviewer was he was reading it again, but he spent a long time just recounting how angry he was at how long it took.
Oh my god! Could you have imagined if we would have tried in anticipation 2 months to get this last issue that goes like
he didn't even know if
I don't know.
He didn't even know if it was like by design that they wanted the reader to have as many memory gaps as the fucking hero.
No, you don't understand. It's immersive writing.
You missed 2 whole issues. You don't know. You didn't know.
Brian Bendis back then was accused a lot of doing what they used to call trade writing. He's writing for the trade. He's writing for when it's collected already. But that doesn't really work for someone who's trying to fucking from week to week or month to month. And he's putting basically $1 worth of dialogue in a $4 book. It's interesting.
And while I dig the book, I dig the themes, stuff like that, I don't know, besides probably maybe Fury, I don't know if he 100% nails anybody in this book, in my opinion.
Not yet. I think he will go on to get them a lot better later on. I think you got shade. You get like flashes of how he can handle Peter. Jessica, for sure. He was definitely trying to nail his Wolverine.
I think he gets into a better place eventually when Wolverine's on other teams.
Luke is definitely a little more well-rounded out later on, because in this book he's a little I was like a like, hey, you yos, keep those drugs out my street. Like it was like a complete
what's my name?
There's no real person.
What's my name? Which I was like, did he do that? Regularly? I know that's an
He
episode
even
of
had
the Luke
hair
Cage
still.
series. It's called Luke. It's called What's My Name or whatever. Say My Name or something like that. But I didn't know that was a thing.
Say my name. That's a weird fetish she has.
Yeah. And Jessica's watching from the
That's
window.
it.
Get some milk.
Yeah, make him say your name.
We're out of milk. All right. I'll go grab it. So our next issue opens up with Wolverine at the X Mansion, and even then he's like, kids, friends. And I'm like, Logan, are you just like going through some shit right now, bro? Like you just don't want to be around nobody. What's going on, man? He don't even have a cigar, bro. He wants a cigar. Don't got no cigar.
Stogie.
For the sake of mentioning it anyway, because that at the end of that issue 3, the only place where you will ever get to see these costumes, these special Secret War costumes in full color and as they were intended to be seen, is in the back in the character design pages.
Wow.
Of issue 3. I don't know. That's so sad as an artist when you spend all this time creating what you think is going to be a cool design that they might turn into action figures one day. And
you know what it's like to be a Spider-Man fan and keep having this fucking Spider-Man Secret War costume pop up that I've never seen ever before, and no one ever tells me where it's from. It's never like a story that I'm like, what do you mean Secret War costume? What is this? What is
finally
this?
read the book, it's not in there.
And it's not
this is where they said it was. Cap has a sick looking snow costume. I can't even explain it. It's
tracker.
That looks awesome. I don't know if you can.
I like that. They look like they roped that into the Steve Rogers, the
Secret Empire one. Yeah, and the fact that he's got like it's like flat with the ears coming out. No eagle. It does look like one that someone was like, "This is too cool to leave in the vault. Bring this back." That's just sad.
Belongs in a museum. Yeah. Logan's having a moment to himself. He's drinking. His hiding senses alert him to a threat, and soon he is burned alive by 2 villains in power suits. He realizes that they are only there for him, but can't piece together why. He literally says something like he can hear or smell his burning flesh or something like that. It's ridiculous. Likewise, the rest of our heroes are in battle with the tech brigade that arrived earlier. Completely overwhelmed, Fury calls several agencies and superpowered teams for help. Daredevil apprehends a villain and tries to interrogate him, but he's speaking in riddles, only stating that he wouldn't have signed up for this if he knew how dark it would get. Suddenly, the Fantastic Four arrives to help our hero save the day. Reed asks Fury for details, but he changes the subject. When it seems like some of the tech is malfunctioning, our team gets optimistic. That is until they see a menacing cyborg woman leading this brigade. While none of the heroes know who she is, she certainly knows who they are and claims that she's been planning a long time to get back at Fury and these heroes for what they've done. This made me laugh because this is very much like that Wanda Thanos meme, right? Like she's doing this whole villain speech to Spider-Man. Like, what is she doing? Who is she? And why is she mad at us? And she's like, I have spent a millennia amassing this tech to finally teach you American pigs. And Spider-Man's like, what is she? What is it?
For 10,000 years, I'm free.
Yeah.
What did we do wrong?
Yeah.
I don't even know who you are.
What do you guys think of this reveal? Kind of. That Lucia Von Barda is a cyborg and
gross.
I mean, it was.
There's an issue. There's an issue where they wrestle with killing her. You know what I'm saying? Like if there was this was 6 issues, there's definitely an issue where they sit and they go, "Did we do the right thing?" You know, and then Fury's like, "Yeah, shut up, don't worry about it. We completely did." And then this happens, and then they're like, "What you see? What the fuck?" You know.
I think that I didn't really know. Is this character was created for this story? I didn't really know. I never really heard of her before or after this.
I get lost with all the Vaughn, Countess, the Madam, all that kind of just. I got all that in my gun in my head. You know, like it's just a bunch of random, just a bunch of random comic women in my head. So yeah, I don't. She looks kind of like what would eventually become the Drowned in Batman uh, Death Metal, Dark Metal, Death Metal. But yeah, she comes back here half cyborg, seemingly because they've taken her body, her life at one point, but now she is reanimated and is using her influence to send or give uh, impoverished Americans tech so that they can commit terrorist attacks throughout the United States and basically destabilize it, which is like the prophecy has ensured itself because even though that was something that they were hinting at could possibly be happening or that they thought were happening, it eventually just happens because they, you know, they caused it to happen. Fury caused the one thing he was trying to stop from happening, and now they're here.
Interesting real world thoughts behind there. If you dig deep enough, you may come to your own conclusions about what's being said, I think.
Do you at all stand with Fury in this? Is there any moment in here where you're like, hey, he's kind of speaking the truth. He's kind of riding that line. Somebody has to see it in black and white kind of stuff.
I think you could have if he didn't come out and be like, I went to go destabilize that country. I don't have any interest in doing that. Maybe we probably should have let the government handle it. He kind of went a little crazy there.
Kind of loses all sympathy when he's just like, yeah, I came in there to just destroy an entire like governing system.
Yeah. Because everyone there, as most soldiers, this is another big thing, you know, as a former soldier, like most soldiers think what they're doing has some level of glory to it, has some level of righteousness to it. You know, a lot of people do it for the money and stuff like that. But when you have to psych yourself up for those long plane rides, that's what I'm saying. When you have to psych yourself up for those long plane rides, you know, all that kind of stuff, you have to sort of believe, at the very least, what you're doing has some level of good to it. And yeah, like had he given them 20% of his plan, people would have sussed out that it was all bull. Like none of this was good or for anyone.
Wait a minute, what the fuck? What are we doing?
That's what I'm saying. I'm actually quite surprised that this group of heroes went as far as they did without knowing as much as they could have. But also what makes me laugh is that, you know, they call in the Fantastic Four and Reed's like getting on Fury's case. Yeah, the same. Both of y'all, Reed and Fury, both of y'all motherfuckers are the same. Burdened. I'm the one man burdened with the knowledge that can save the world, and everyone else is just going to be a pawn on my chessboard because, I mean, come on, they're not even all that smart.
I get the biggest difference is that Nick Fury does it maliciously, and Reed is just completely aloof. Like,
you don't think just like,
I genuinely believe. No, I don't think Reed is. He's fucking dumb. Like I have a problem. Let me tell you something. My wife is a scientist, right? She is a brilliant, great 4.0 college fucking genius scientist person. But she is fucking stupid sometimes. And I'm like, this is the simplest thing. It's because they're thinking all the way up here sometimes, and their minds they're all the way up here. So like the things that are down here, they're aloof to them. Like some of the more simpler things, you're like, how do you not know that? Like, you can do all these things.
Oh, because their brain is so specialized in one thing, they lose some of it.
You're thinking all the way.
But I was just that, but
Reed, dude, Reed is always trying to figure shit out.
Yeah, it's not even so specialized. It's so much like you have dedicated your brain power to like the big picture so much that you have completely disregarded how your decisions are affecting people.
It's like when I play when I've been playing WWE 2K for weeks and I play any other game. It's like my fingers don't know what to do because they've been trained to respond to a certain game and a certain timing. And I guess the question I have is like that stuff, like not like maybe forgetting the anniversary stuff, like that is whatever. I mean more so like the hubris stuff, like the oh, I should because I can experimentation stuff. And the question I have is there ever a point where hubris becomes malicious? like where you just are so you think so highly of yourself and your skills that it does result in bad things happening.
But that's the biggest difference between Reed Richards and every other version of him that he ended up meeting in the council, and even the maker, who ends up going completely bad, is that Reed, when he sits down to think about it, can actually figure it out and makes the right choice. The
Yeah.
other, that's what makes Reed special. That's the main Reed. That's our Reed. Could it happen? It does in other universes, though. It's never going to happen to our Reed. Our Reed is a good guy. You know,
Yeah.
Nick Fury is an asshole who's so in the weeds and so moving the chess pieces around that he does not give a fuck about how you feel. Even if he did sit down and think about it, he'd look you right in the eye and tell you, "I'd do it again." Like,
Yeah.
and you'd be like, "Shit, you're a piece of fucking trash, irredeemable."
I think the
that-
chess analogy
yeah.
works really well because also if you it's one thing if this was the game of chess, but this is just one of many games of chess, which means that he's lost a bunch of pawns before. Why does he care that this
Yeah.
one's complaining? Like, why does he have to fill in this bishop? It doesn't really matter. There'll be another game after this game, win or lose. There's going to be another game after this, and so it didn't surprise you upon this first reading because I guess this is what colored your opinion about Nick. Did
Yeah.
it surprise you at all for this first reading that he had kept all these really prominent figures in the dark?
No, because they kind of set it up. You asked earlier too, like you said, why would these heroes go with him on this such little information? But they kind of they not even hinted, but almost it's a group of people that would all have reasons to either trust Fury or trust someone else in the group. With Peter,
Yeah.
even if he didn't trust Fury, he sees Matt Murdock there. Matt Murdock, I know he's cool. I'm gonna be there. Wolverine literally says to Fury later on, like, I would have done this for you, even if you didn't fucking wipe my mind. Like, literally, I
Yeah.
would have done this if you just asked me. And of course, Captain America is Captain America. He's
I
gonna
even feel
follow.
like they say a line about like Matt being there for Natasha.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Matt's got somebody he's there for too. So he's like, look
Yeah.
at that fine piece of ass. I mean,
I mean, I can't see anything.
what I can't see.
So sorry. I'm not looking at it.
Are you staring at my? No, I'm not.
No, I am not.
Clearly, I'm not.
Objection. So, it's alluded that this tech monster is Lucia von Bardes, who used the armor of the assembled tech-themed supervillains to create a massive antimatter bomb. Sue Storm attempts to disrupt the network while the heroes try to disable the individual suits of the armor, but von Bardes activates an explosion that could seemingly destroy the entire city of New York, but the issue ends. And now we have the dreaded final issue of a massive story arc where they have to run to the fucking finish line.
Rush to the conclusion. I forgot it was 5 issues, and I looked and it said like of 5. I was like, what the fuck? Like, how are we gonna finish this? Hold on a minute. We don't. Spoiler. No.
We do get introduced to a new character though, because in the interrogation room.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
that needs in the interrogation room C of Shield of the Shield helicarrier, Commander Maria Hill interrogates 18-year-old agent Daisy Johnson, who we recognize as being the strange, mysterious woman who accompanied our team in that secret Laverian mission. Johnson suggests that Hill watch the satellite recordings of the incident in New York City if she wants to know of any information about it. Real smart ass here. I like I like establishing it early on, getting it on there. Marvel characters have always been a bit sassy. They've gone really far with their rapport. So I like this introduction of Daisy. I have no tie to this character elsewhere. I was not an Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. person. Is she portrayed well in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.? Is that a character people are digging? Is that somebody people want to see?
Yeah,
in the MCU proper?
She's awesome. They were begging for her to be in the MCU. When Secret Invasion came out, people were just hoping and praying that she would be on there.
Yeah.
And of course, I mention it all the time to anybody. Secret Warriors is excellent, absolutely excellent.
You've
And it
mentioned it to
was
me several times.
yeah, it is. It's just awesome. I didn't even know who Jonathan Hickman was back then. But of course, the person who wrote that story would go on to be like my favorite writer. I didn't know though it was him at the time. I
I've
just read
often
it.
mistaken it for Secret Avengers.
No, that's Brubaker, which is another a top tier, excellent fucking espionage writer. But no, the Secret Warriors thing, it's a Bendis concept that Jonathan Hickman wrote. But it spins right out of this and Secret Invasion, and it's where you get the Daisy Johnson motivations and the arc and her connection to Nick Fury and how much he cares about her and how much she cares about him. But he's still Nick Fury, and it's so fucking good. I would
This
just
one is
say,
that the one with Gorgon and all that?
yeah, and
Okay.
that's where Winter Soldier gets the plot that Hydra is Shield. That whole
Right.
thing comes from Secret Warriors. It's excellent.
Yeah.
Check it out
And
if you haven't
you
read
flesh
it.
out Allegra De Fontaine, who hasn't done a lick of nothing in the MCU yet.
Nick
We're
Nick
still waiting
Fury's
for her to-
brother. You get
She's
Nick
making some
Fury's.
calls. She's
I
doing
forgot
some
his
things.
fucking name. Nick Gray something or something. Nick Fury's fucking bro.
Is
It's
Nick
cool.
Gray? Wouldn't they still
Nick
be
Gray?
Fury?
I forget. Gray. It's not Gray Fury. That sounds fucking dumb. Something Gray. I don't remember.
I was
haven't
gonna say
read it in a long time.
they portray Quake as like, or they portray Daisy Johnson in the show as like fairly intuitive, but also like
Vulnerable.
kind of
A lot more than
impulsive.
Bruno. That
Kind of
too,
impulsive.
Uh,
So she,
yeah,
like a
I think
rookie,
I think
could
I've
have
seen
been
more
making
Shield
mistakes.
than John has.
No, but I mean, I've watched 4 seasons of it. I stopped before. I
4
stopped right
seasons.
before. Yeah, it was a lot. I didn't
You
even
stopped
stop
for
watching
Inhumans?
it. No, I stopped watching. I didn't stop watching on purpose. They went away for like a year and a half, and I didn't
That'll do
watch
it.
it. Yeah, and I was like, shit. Like I didn't get to come back for it. I just didn't get to come back for it.
Bonkers.
But yeah,
Yeah, they're making a point to stamp her in this story, certify her at least. So we go back 6 hours prior, where Lucia von Bardas is clashing with Nick Fury, Captain America, Daredevil, Spider-Man, and the Fantastic Four while assembling a massive antimatter bomb. The situation escalates until Daisy Johnson intervenes just in time, incapacitating von Bardas with her earthquake powers. Explaining her actions to Hill, Johnson revealed that she isn't a mutant, but possesses seismic abilities due to the genetic damage passed down from her father. She used these powers to locate and neutralize von Bardas' power source and shut her down. After the New York battle, Rogers threatens to reveal what occurred unless Fury cooperates. Their conversation is interrupted by Wolverine, Emma Frost, Cyclops, and Shadowcat, questioning an attack on Wolverine at Xavier's School for Gifted Youngsters. Fury explains that they were targeted for their involvement in overthrowing the Latvian government a year ago, a memory they don't recall. Fury recounts his decision to take direct action against von Bardas with Rogers, Murdoch, Parker, and Wolverine. Following the New York battle, Fury justifies his actions, stating they were necessary to combat the threat. And then Wolverine just says,
The unknown, unnamed threat.
boy, I am. I'm looking at that scene where Daisy gets interrogated by Maria Hill.
See all the
And
sass?
it is so it's actually really bad how many times. Let me see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's the same image copy and pasted 6 times.
Is it at
onto
least
the
flipped? Is it at least flipped?
No, it's not. It's zoomed in, it's cut in, it's cut out. One of them he changes to the iPad. It's crazy because it's not just that image. There's another image on the page that's used 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 times. What the fuck? How did they get away with this? This is crazy.
That's why I have to believe it has to be art based. But whenever I hear about books being delayed, it's usually because of art.
But then they took so many shortcuts. So like, where did the delay come in?
Well,
Like,
that's why I wonder. That's why I wonder if they made the first image of Daisy, and then they were like, "Oh my God, the artist is sick. We got to get this issue out." All right, just copy and paste that panel with Daisy in it over and over and over
Somebody
and over
find
again.
Greg Land.
Yes.
I mean, at least you know why he has a job though, because he makes the effort to at least draw and trace different fucking shit on every page. He gets the work in on time. It's
The
not like
the anatomy is usually correct too, which is very important.
I sent.
Very important.
I kind of sent the page because you have to see it. It's a double page spread. It's crazy that this happened this way, but
it's the same page over and over again. I was reading this digitally, so it wasn't panned out all like this, but this is just egregious, hilarious. That paired with the other two pictures is gonna be hilarious. Like, not only did they like this, they liked it so much they just did it over and over and over again. Yeah, Wolverine just straight up attacks Fury. I was the most emotion they got out of me was from this interaction. I'll say.
Okay.
There was something to me about Wolverine's confession. Like, I would have just wrote and did this for you, but
Yeah.
like, you mess with my mind, which is like a notorious thing you don't do to Wolverine. Like, that's like one of the only things you know about him is that he doesn't remember anything. So you wouldn't want to mess with that. And that betrayal. Like the fact that nothing affects him in this book, even when he's near death, but he's most hurt by the fact that someone would use one of his biggest weaknesses against him, which is his mind. And yeah,
I'm pretty sure he also knew that was a LMD. Like, of all people,
Oh, yeah.
in
Think
the
so?
place. Yeah, it's not like it
They
smells
smelled it.
like Nick Fury. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, well, I wonder, man, because you would think that they would have to get more and more realistic, right? In case he has to encounter like a saber tooth or
I
whatever.
think they're getting. I think they continuously get like more and more realistic. Like, anytime you see them, they're like, "Oh, this new model is like, oh, you can fuck it." Like,
All right,
it's
right.
always.
So it's after this death that the next one start emitting a spray, human spray.
Well, we're gonna have to upgrade that.
Yeah.
Daisy exploding Wolverine's heart though. That's hardcore shit.
Like nothing. And again, like, between her attitude towards Maria, her showing up to the fight and just taking out Lucia, and then they're really doing their best to make her, a household name, or at least
Brian Bendis wanted to establish his new character that he will not use ever again. Really hard.
I haven't seen her pop up in anything.
It's Secret
I can't
Wars.
really-
Secret Invasion is
yeah.
the big one, and then
Yeah.
that's pretty much it. Because like he basically did all this just to set up the end of Secret Invasion, where Nick Fury makes his magic return, like, and where nobody knew where he was all these years. Yay!
Dun, dun, dun.
Oh my gosh.
But they never come back. They never get used again. He's like, give it to the newest writer on staff. I don't know.
Is this when he goes to the moon?
No. That's much later. That's yeah. He gets sent up there for atonement or something. What is that? Original
His big ass gun. Yeah.
He kills the Watcher. The fuck was he on? Yeah.
There's a lot. Again, there's very few books where you read from when Nick Fury's in anywhere you don't question what the hell is going on with him. But yeah, Wolverine attacks Fury, leading to a confrontation that ends with Johnson using her powers to stop Wolverine, quite literally, by stopping his heart.
She exploded it though. Like, she plopped the heart. She didn't just stop it.
But then it just comes back, right?
Yeah, that's why she did it. She even says,
"How does that regeneration work?"
I don't have a clue. But then at that point, like, how does any regeneration work for like the cell? Like, I assume
you
it's
grow
just
two hearts from the both sides that were broken.
He coughs it out like a bad,
like a loogie. Like, I don't need this.
Extra heart.
Again, hey, when this happens.
Bob.
Agent Hill, now Shield's new director, questions Johnson about Fury's location, branding him a war criminal. She removes Johnson from her assignment and orders a search for Natasha Romanoff. I really like Hill taking over right now because everything is so in flux in the universe that it leads to the level of, I wouldn't say paranoia, but like almost like she all of a sudden now she's store manager, right? Like all of a sudden, like now I gotta handle all this shit. And I know it's not perfect, but this is what the fuck I gotta do. Like she gets on Cat's case about the whole thing. Like she's like, I'm not trying to harp on nobody. I'm trying to do my job.
Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes handles that pretty well too, because she just ends up in a job like, God damn it, you heroes always fucking shit up. Like, how did they deal with this?
Because her piece de resistance is standoff, right?
I think it comes so much later too, because this is in 2004 that she becomes director of S.H.I.E.L.D. and she stays director of S.H.I.E.L.D. until, was it 2006 or 7, where Tony becomes director of S.H.I.E.L.D. and then
yes, and she works
after
under him.
that Norman Osborn becomes director of S.H.I.E.L.D. and then she gets it back in like 2011. So she doesn't get a fucking moment to shine for another, what, 8 years after that? Jeez.
Yeah, she was deputy director under Stark. Deputy director Hill. And then 2010 is Avengers Standoff. Where they have Pleasant Hill.
10. That's not bad. I actually thought it was much later than that.
That was a long one.
Yeah.
Damn. Freaking Pleasant Hill? Jesus.
Yeah. Well, that's why I think of
Pleasant, get it?
I think of gosh.
Pleasant Hill.
My brain is we gotta wrap this up. My brain is breaking. Pleasant Hill, Maria Hill.
I hate this. Anyway. I hate all of this.
Onomatopoeia. Anyway.
God damn it.
Later on the helicarrier's deck, Johnson receives a call, simply responding with, yes? Yes, sir. Bum, bum, bum.
Bum, bum,
hell yeah. Raid Secret Warriors, motherfuckers. Okay.
She's doing scam calls. She's just calling people and saying, yes? Yes, sir.
She's scaring old people. Sure, yes. Hello? Yes. Hello.
I need tech support.
Yes, sir.
Those chat transcripts were like cool, but good lord, they took a while.
It feels like Bendis outtakes. It feels like he was just like, these are the things I couldn't fit in the book. But you read did your copies come with all the extra information in the back as well, or was it just the transcripts?
I think it was just a transcript. I only had transcripts.
The one I had a bunch of the dossiers in the back,
but no character designs and anecdotes about why and shit like that.
Character designs and all that stuff. Yes.
Okay, so you had the ones I had. I was reading. I have the trade paperback, but I also was reading on my phone because I was eating at one point and I didn't want to grease up my book. So I kept reading on my phone and I was reading a scan of original issues. So the back of the book was like everything that had come out the week it came out in publication. And I just thought it was really funny to see how, like, there had to be some real fucking issues going on behind the scenes because they were able to, they were kind of like explaining reasons for things and shit that for shit that never ever makes it into the book. It's quite interesting. I wish I had more time to really dig into it. I kind of had to skim it.
Similarly, but it's I would even argue that usually it's not that apparent when I'm reading a crossover like this that it fell apart somewhere down the line. It's not like it's the first time it's happened. We've covered books on here where we're like, oh yeah, this is where it just fell off a cliff. But it's very apparent here that something is missing. The initial energy put forth in the beginning, when it felt like they were gonna bust this whole thing wide open, kind of simmers down to the end, and then it's almost an option whether or not they want to bust it open. Where initially they're like, yeah, this whole thing, we're about to upend all this. We're gonna make you question the one, I guess I wouldn't say trustworthy, but somebody of authority in our universe. We're gonna make you question whether anything he's ever done is righteous, or was he just trying to strike first, kind of stuff. And then eventually he's like, well, no, he's still the good guy because the quirky girl is friends with him. So she's the good girl.
Off. He's an asshole.
You're a jerk, Professor X.
He is.
I don't think mine has as much stuff as yours did, but like I know I've got some of these sketches in the back.
Yeah. That's okay. Cool.
I'm seeing those for the first time.
Talking about.
Okay.
I'm literally seeing some of this stuff for the first time here.
There's also a 2-page spread that you can see in color, but only in the behind the scenes part, because when it actually comes up in the book, it's a black and white scene. And that's another place where you can see the fucking. Well, that's really cool too, because I didn't know who the fuck half those people were. That's where I found out.
Still don't.
That's where I found out that that's Ned Leeds, because I know there's a line in the book where
Hobby?
he's like a new fucking goblin.
Yeah.
God, I hope you're not another Osborn. So I was like,
he goes, I can't handle another Osborn.
Yeah, and
you get that, but that's not the one. There's one where they're fighting on Latveria in their Secret War costumes, and it's like, why wouldn't you put this in the book? I don't know. Whatever. Fuck me.
Well, GT, when you think of this book in the future, what will you think about? What will you remember?
Hasselhoff. No. Yeah, mostly like what I texted John as I was reading it, like, okay, this is for all the stuff you get that have these provocative titles, and you have an idea of what it's about. Like, it's a bit subversive in the sense that like the book is very little about the Secret War and more about like more about Nick Fury playing up the American paranoia of the time.
Yeah.
It was like they've got I've got intel that says they have the thing. We need to go and get them. And I also think it's sort of it's interesting in the sense that it probably mirrors more it wants to mirror more the common man, because it's about government in action, for lack of a better term.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
I thought that was relevant.
Yeah.
Wholeheartedly. I mean, I one of the reasons why I joined the military was because there was a lot of push to join the military around the time where I joined. Also, I remember this. I remember distinctly.
I don't know, man. I'm not.
No, I remember distinctly that when we first invaded Iraq and Afghanistan, people didn't think we did it fast enough, and we did it like within a couple months. I know Afghanistan, then eventually we get Iraq in 2003. We do the the siege over there, but it's like,
and there were a lot of songs
ultimately
about
for
retribution.
I mean, put that boot in your ass is the American way. That was the Toby Keith.
That was
the Toby Keith theme. Yeah.
Everyone united in their hatred for one.
For anyone else that was
horrible.
not American.
That's horrible.
Yeah. That's why I love like all that revisionist history of like, oh yeah, we were so united after 9/11. It's like, yeah, against American Arabs. We were all united against American Arabs.
Right? It was bad.
That doesn't count. And again, who gets to play God in those instances? Because you're right, Nick Fury is seen. In any other instance, he's that guy from like Law Abiding Citizen, like he's a vigilante. Like he presented the people of authority with the option to help, and they said no. So now he will,
Gerard Butler?
His methods are untouched.
Yeah.
Well, Gerard Butler told the cops, and they let the guy go or something like that.
Yeah, it's that Gerard Butler movie.
Yeah. Where he's a Joker. Because they're like, You know what's cool? The Dark Knight. But yeah, it's basically yeah, I could totally see him being I'm putting my bootstraps on and I'm gonna handle this for my whole country because they don't got the balls to for themselves. So I will.
And I did think it was sort of interesting. If I remember correctly, I think it was interesting that they insinuate that there was a government response that they had planned, and that Fury fucked it all up.
Well, they were, yeah, there was some bureaucratic stuff. They didn't say they weren't gonna like deal with it, and they said they were gonna try it. Like you said, the diplomatic way, looking for more diplomatic options at the very least.
Like Nick Fury thinks he's getting government speak for we're not doing shit about it.
Yeah.
Right. So like,
kind of, I know, I hate to, I think it kind of says something too. Like you said, they insinuated that
it's kind of saying a lot of things.
Well, beyond those things, the government was inactive, but to Nick Fury because he didn't see the whole picture. Like they didn't give him all the information, right? So he goes off on a tangent.
He thinks he's getting government speak for shut the fuck up and sit down.
And he goes on and fucks it up anyway. So it's just it's like I said, it's just so relevant. Like it would be it remains relevant.
Yeah.
And I think it will.
And the response is also relevant, right?
Yeah. Like, oh God, yeah.
What ends up coming back and coming to your home, when you go out and try to strike first, outplan your opponent and do all that kind of stuff.
What is it with Bendis and striking first? He comes back to this theme in Civil War II. It's like, should we take them out now?
Well, that's what I'm saying. They wrote like a 10-year arc of what do you do with these powers and who's responsible, who should be responsible, and are you responsible if you allow yourself to be controlled by other people who say they're supposed to be the ones responsible? There's a lot of that in here, and I think I'm with GT. I think when this came out, you were supposed to be like, oh no, Fury handled it. I think that's the only way this book kind of reads. If you're like, yeah, the other guys are kind of punks. He had to wipe their memories. We had to get this done, and one day they'll learn. He even says it, right? One day you'll learn, and you'll thank me, or whatever the hell.
I think there's a lot. I think there's a few ways where you could have absorbed this because, to Nick Fury, it's like we've got the intel. Let's do something about it. And he gets an answer he doesn't like because he thinks they're just going to ignore it. Whereas like where the book insinuates that there was a bureaucratic resolution that could have done the job and saved some lives. Nick Fury's just like, no, more guns and more ships.
And he kills a bunch of civilians too, doesn't he?
I believe so.
Destroys the whole fucking town.
Yeah.
Think about when Putin was there yapping, and your common American was like, "We should just go drop a nuke over there." It's like, how did we get? Now we're in nuclear war. We went from like someone talking badly, now we're already at nuclear war. If a lot of these guys had their fingers on the button, this planet would have been gone a long time ago. So yeah, a lot of these people think, "Oh, we have the information. We know he's doing bad things. Why don't we just go over there?" And well, every time we've done that, something bad's happened. Quite literally, every time we've said, "You know what? Your leader's not that good. We'll get you a better one. Kill that one. We'll just fill in the blanks." And then it always goes to shit because we're not the ones supposed to be doing this.
I kind of wonder how much of Secret Invasion Bendis had planned earlier on. Just sometimes, because if he had the idea that he wanted to come do this scroll thing like this early, then Nick Fury being paranoid about who could be giving these villains this weaponry kind of makes sense later on, because that I don't know if it's a retcon or if this is what it was meant to be now, but the idea when he does go off radar is that he realized there were Skrulls infiltrating every aspect of the world government and the Avengers and every fucking team.
Sure.
So he goes off radar. So I wonder if Bendis had it so planned out that this was Nick Fury acting out so that he can go off radar, and also trying to make sure that it wasn't a scroll agency giving the villains this weaponry, this and this technology.
Yeah. But that's what's
It,
interesting.
yeah,
Like I think, like you're saying, to it that Bendis did a good job of setting up these dominoes so that they do fall on top of each other and create like a domino effect where the paranoia just keeps rising for various reasons, in the population, to the point that they are ready to elect a man. I mean, this all sounds quite interesting. Elect an evil businessman who just says the right things at the right times, and he's like, I will put an end to all this,
I wonder.
paranoia.
oh my god,
that
I
kind
don't
of
even
stuff.
want to think about what the scrolls being among you actually
No,
is referencing.
but the worst
Jesus,
part about it,
never put that together.
where your brain's connecting, it was what I was thinking about, which is why like they completely mishandled the metaphor in Secret Invasion by making them immigrants. They
Yeah,
just saying like the immigrants, so like it becomes more of a fear of that, of your fellow
yeah,
man not belonging here, and that's
yeah.
a whole nother bag of can of worms, bag of cats, something like that, some
It's
sort of
interesting
euphemism.
because I liked the immigrant story in Captain Marvel.
Hmm.
I thought it was just sort of interesting, and and at least what I thought was, in a healthy way, a bit subversive to what you're expecting from the Skull story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I forgot what it was I read, but I remember reading something and presenting it to John as like, the bad Skrulls could just be a sect of radicals that are besieged by some sort of issue, and
Yes.
like that works. Any sort of strife will inevitably lead some of the population to radicalization, because that's just who they are.
Yeah. I'm just like I'm smiling because everything we're saying is like real political shit. It's like a real, like this
Yeah.
idea that if you constantly mistreat
Comics aren't
people,
political.
if this idea, if you constantly mistreat people, that you might foster a sect of them to become extreme revolutionaries who go
Yes.
out and through means that probably are not deemed the most classy, will exact revenge upon their oppressors and then be deemed as and demonized as
Yeah.
they were initially demonized in the first place.
How many
Yeah.
times have we done this already? Like,
Yeah.
how many times in history can
Yeah.
you be like, well,
Yeah.
actually,
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
had happened was,
Right. Right.
it's pretty good. Like, I wouldn't call this a bad story at all. I'm like, I feel like they
No.
got,
No.
even with
no.
all the shit that they clearly
What,
went through,
was that what's happening?
Yeah.
right? I wouldn't call this a bad story at all. Like, I think it has layers, it has themes, it's asking questions, it's provoking thought. It's just
I think if
clear that there was a structural issue somewhere, like
And an
sure.
Angelina Jolie issue somewhere.
over and over and over and over and over and over and over again.
Yeah, I think if you are a little bit like, for to try to pick my term correctly, a little politically like ignorant, or maybe the better term is to say, um like what's that word they say for when you like can't read?
Illiterate.
I'm trying to find the nicest way to say
Illiterate.
ignorant, stupid. What's a good
Yeah, dumbass. What's another word for dumbass?
What's
Dumbass.
it? Low
No.
IQ. It's not their fault.
Oh my god.
Were you going for
A bunch-
illiterate? Politically illiterate?
Politically illiterate, yeah. Yes. Yes. Like how I am in some senses like technologically illiterate.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you're a somewhat politically illiterate person, like, you probably aren't getting it.
Right.
For sure. It might just be a regular story about Nick Fury. And it works on that level too, I think, on a surface level. Like, oh,
I
wow,
think it
look at
works
all
on a
these heroes
surface
here.
level once you get to the mind wipe, because then like I think that's undeniable.
Yeah. For sure.
I think if this comic would have had more balls, it would have been revealed like they were getting their shit from like Wendigo or something like that. Like it was never Latveria. They just like he had like bad intel. It was never Latveria. They killed this woman who's now back
For
as a
no
cyborg
reason.
woman. Yeah, now she's
Right.
back as some cyborg woman. It's like there's no proof of weapons of mass destruction in Latveria. People
There
get this
is.
protest.
There is. Look, she's using it now. After you killed her
Yeah.
family.
If it
man.
was,
After you-
if it
Yeah.
were maybe a braver story, you might get the gimmick that you got from the Last Jedi, where it's like it's a friend of theirs that's selling to both sides.
Oh yeah, 100%.
It's-
Money's
I
money.
forgot that happened.
Yeah,
Canto
they,
bite.
they were introducing. A
I
lot
know
of
you hate
questions.
cancel bite, John.
That's why I do give credit for both in that film and in this book, them raising some questions. I just wish I would have known Bendis' opinion on them, but this is also, like we said, so close to very political time in the world. Not that it has gotten any less
worry.
political, but maybe
What
he
do
was
you worry
treading.
about?
I worry
ground.
that this gives us an insight into how
Uh,
Bendis thinks.
Or and maybe it was just at the time because
Maybe he's better now.
maybe he's Maybelline.
Oh my god!
It kind of reminds me of like Frank Miller because it was after like 9/11 fucked him up, man. Like after that, like his stories were never the same.
Holy terror, man! Holy terror.
Yeah.
I was actually thinking about chiming in on that. Like, I think it's always very interesting in both. There's no point in saying both or whatever. It's very interesting in all media, I think, to know the setting in which it was written and how that particular setting influenced the writing.
Right.
Yeah.
Because I know a lot of people will probably look back at their stuff and just be like, yeah, look, I was in a bad place back then, y'all. Like, hey, shit went down that way.
I think it's important to remember that always, though. Like when you're reading, I know you can't expect that from everyone, but I feel like it will
when
also
you read it in a vacuum, sometimes it's just something you don't think about.
Yeah, for sure. And then it kind of paints the way you think about it now. Like, why the fuck is it like this?
Yeah.
like why is Watchmen so goddamn depressing? Like, well, let me teach you. Let me show you about a guy named Ronald Reagan. No, and then let me show you about European politics in the 1980s and how scary they were. Like, things like that, though. I thought of Watchmen immediately because Greg is sitting there, and I was like, "Damn, I know Greg hates Watchmen."
Right.
Thanks. I'm glad you think of positive things in your
It is a positive thing. I think of you first.
Oh, just sure. I remember hearing about, even though I wasn't watching it at the time, like they said, you get a whole season of Star Trek that centers around a terrorist attack. Galactical, because it was that time, it was post 9/11, and like that was those are the stories they were writing, right?
Yeah.
How long did it take to get a 9/11 movie? Was it like 2 years?
No,
I would say a year.
I'd say
the
a
Nick
year.
Cage one.
That's what I was thinking. The
of.
Nick Cage one.
Yeah,
The Nick Cage one came out like right after that.
Bro, Hollywood is fucking crazy.
What is it? 2011.
Whoever wrote that shit must have started writing it the day.
It could be 2011. It would have came out in 2002,
like
maybe
2002 or something like that.
Yeah.
I think it was called World Trade Center. Like
yes,
straight
it was. Or WTC.
Yo,
Hollywood, man.
Hollywood is crazy. There was a writer somewhere that
bonkers.
wrote that shit the day, like he started writing it on 9/11. Like
Oliver Stone. Oliver Stone, dude.
2006.
I saw that movie in theaters. I don't remember.
Oliver Stone.
Yeah, it has not impressed anything upon me, so I don't remember a lick of it.
He probably thought he was the shit too. Like, watch me. Watch how I tell this powerful story that makes you feel American.
It's the dude that did like Midnight Express and Conan the Barbarian and Scarface.
What's the movie that ends with like the post credits? You find out.
That's what I was talking about.
Is that Robert Pattinson? The Robert Pattinson movie?
The Robert Pattinson movie.
Yeah. They show a classroom and the teacher writes up on the fucking classroom what the date is, and then you see that he's in a building, and when they pan out of it, it's the fucking
What the fuck?
that is the the balls, the
Could you
gall,
The
imagine?
the audacity.
the absolute sack.
Incredible.
I
Thank you.
can't.
Thank you, Brian.
Can you
for this-
imagine
for
now
giving us
just
this
ending a movie?
conversation.
Can you imagine now just ending like one of those romantic comedies as like the character is like kissing this girl as she gets on her fucking cruise line and it's the goddamn Titanic?
Yeah.
Yeah. No,
I
she's okay.
Now whenever I think of like the COVID outbreak, I always think of the ending of the first was it Planet of the Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, where you just see the arrows of this disease going from country to country because people just flying around and spreading it. That's always been my like barometer now for like
Oh, is that a
pandemics
thing that
or
happened?
diseases. Reddit, because their neighbor, Caesar's neighbor, what's his name's neighbor? He's blacklisted. the Franco.
James Franco.
There you go.
James Franco, yes.
James Franco's neighbor in the movie is a flight attendant or a pilot,
A pilot,
and
okay.
so he gets the monkey disease or whatever the hell is going on in that movie, and he goes to fly.
Is that a story in there that there's a fucking disease with the apes?
The thing that they gave it's the Terrigen Mist X-Men thing.
Oh
the
no!
the thing that they gave the
It's
apes
in the fish oil.
kills humans. The things that they give the apes to make them smarter
Okay.
has a negative effect on the humans, and it makes
I
them
see.
sick, and then they slowly die. And what happens is that guy like coughs up blood, but then you see him take his little rolly bag and go to his flight because he's a pilot,
Yeah.
and then you just see like arrows going from different country to different country.
So
just
he's
spreading the
patient
disease.
zero.
Yeah, just spreading the disease everywhere and stuff.
Okay, I didn't know anything about that. That why does that remind me of? Oh, jeez. That reminds me of something else. But
Real
and now
life.
that you mentioned also, like now I'm thinking of the Inhumans and the fish oil.
Oh yeah, there you go. Yeah.
I hated that. I hated
You
that
hated
so
the fish
much.
oil?
Hated the fish oil. Hate.
That's how it spread. It got into the fish oil.
It was in the fish. You see, the fish got turned into fish oil from the ocean that was affected by the Terrigen mists.
Well, yeah, it doesn't get turned
Yeah.
into fish oil, but like since we're harvesting fish oil because people, buy it and consume it for medicinal purposes or for health purposes, yeah.
No.
So
That's what it was reminding me of. Like it's not really the same thing, but like it was reminding me of like Deep Blue Sea, where we're trying to make the fucking sharks smarter so we can use them for cancer treatments, but then they kill us all.
oh whoops, unseen side effect of making all these intelligent ass sharks. So the question I'll leave you guys with today, before we wrap things up, should comics be taking a more political commentary sort of approach with stuff, and is there like a safe distance as far as either time or the deliberate nature in which you address? How much in metaphor should some of this stuff be? Do we go to the native land and steal vibranium, the magical mineral?
Yes.
We already were, right?
The safest
yeah.
distance is right on top of it as it's happening. It's not, comics don't exist. Like people swear like this is an escape from reality. It's like, well, in a way, but
Yeah.
it's
Captain
also,
America, Hitler.
Yeah, literally Superman exists because of two marginalized little Jewish boys who wanted a fucking savior and wanted to be saved from the things in their life. That's kind of one of the things about escaping reality. You also want to kind of be provoked into thinking of how to deal with it. You don't want to fucking hide from it. That's a big, I think today more than ever, we should actually be attacking people from within their media because they're so willing to run away and hide. And
the same logic is like the idea that comic books and stuff like that are supposed to be escapist media that doesn't talk about these sorts of things, but like Captain America only exists to make troops happy.
That's a level to remember. They would be like, we can never have him defeat Hitler because we don't know how to do it in real life. But
Oh, yeah.
I think I
But he
think
can punch him in the face.
I do think you have to do that. Like comics are supposed to be a reflection of life. Like you're supposed to be able to go back and read a comic from the 60s and be like, well, fuck, life was really weird back then.
Yeah.
Look at this. Reed Richards is in love with that little girl. I don't know why
Yeah.
they thought this was okay.
Yes.
But it happened.
Same for Hal Jordan.
Hal Jordan is clearly in love with this 200-year-old teenager. But she's old, but she has childlike features, Hal. I need you to explain the attraction. I don't think comics are meant, they were never meant to be
To pussyfoot?
Yeah, like they were literally meant to address the issues, like these issues in a fun way, sometimes in a metaphorical way, because people can't handle that. But the metaphor, like with X-Men, it's sometimes so hidden that when you even confront them with it in real life, they're like, no.
What do you mean it's about the gays?
I said this shit with the X-Men that it's the obvious, it's the conversation that's happening. It's the obvious and back and forth, why are they making the X-Men woke now? And it's like, no, you fucking moron. They always were. And I kind of responded. I posted this quote that Stan Lee said. I don't even know when, but he basically talked about how the X-Men were all about diversity. And I had dozens of people telling me, well, the original team was all white men. And I was like, you fucking idiots. That was a metaphor because people like you, couldn't handle it. So you had to get it painted in a familiar color because you still need the lesson, you buffoon.
It's also like one of those things that people are trying to be technically correct with, as opposed to being like outwardly correct with. Because when he took the job, I don't know if he initially thought that he was gonna be, pushing such a progressive message.
The civil rights leader of a generation.
But I can see as you flesh things out and as you flesh characters out and you start to decide where these characters are going to go in what direction, that should be what's championed. That when there was an option to stick with the status quo or change stuff, it was chosen to be changed. But like everyone's trying to be like, well, technically, when he made the very first draft, it was, just because he was trying to make a super team and he already had the Fantastic Four. Like, yeah, I know that. I know all that. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about making the choice. When he had the choice as the creator, when he had the choice, he chose to make it more inclusive. He chose to tackle more, stuff like that. But I feel like now, because it's become such a word, in and of itself, because we're dealing with some crazy political stuff right now. And I don't feel like necessarily some of our media is reflecting that out of fear of being divisive and only making half the money.
Yeah, that's always going to be the big issue. That's why I think it's up to the creators to get it in there anyway. Stick it in there, metaphor it, hide it, paint it however you need to paint it. Don't put hate fucking messages on glass windows in the background of an X-Men comic. It's not what I'm talking about.
Is that the baseball one?
That did happen.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, get the message out there, man. It's compassion, understanding. These are things that heroes are all about. I don't understand how anybody could ever have an issue with that. But I mean, actually, I do understand. It's a product of low IQ, and like, how do you even fight that? Like, you can't make people smarter. You just have to be smarter than them.
I think so. Like, there's absolutely a thing about compassion, empathy. The other word you use, which already I've forgotten.
I think it's just empathy, but like dumber.
Sure, absolutely. One thing that I latched on to very hard, George will know what I'm talking about, from watching Ted Lasso, was also just curiosity.
Okay.
Like, ask the question, don't make the judgment.
Right.
Maybe when you find something you don't understand, just ask the question.
Yeah, try to understand it.
Instead of just going like, well, I don't understand it, so it's bad.
Right.
That's kind of there's so much of that on every level too. Like, because sometimes is you see something that's inherently bad, like a racist. You know, like
Yeah,
a racist, it's bad. Racism is bad, but you know, sometimes you don't stop to ask yourself why. You're just like, what a bad piece of garbage. But you
yeah.
never
Yeah.
kind of wonder like
I yeah.
why.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
find myself in a lot of situations where it's like where my journey to understand something is mistaken for sympathy. Like, no, I need to educate myself on where it
Right.
comes from so I know how to battle it.
Yeah,
Yeah. 100%. Yeah.
I
Because
think
again,
it's
these things
so
don't.
important to know how somebody. It doesn't mean sympathizing with it or agreeing with it, but it means understanding the path. How did it
Yeah.
get here? What steps were taken?
They got to some sort of conclusion, and in their mind, that conclusion was 100% rational given their information, their experiences, their
Right.
biases. But if you have none of those particular things, it may seem off the wall to you. Like, what are you talking about? And
Yeah.
yeah, sometimes you do want to understand without necessarily sympathizing. But in a world where I think we were talking about, some people see idealistic as, or the comic book world as idealistic, right? And for some people that means
What comics were they reading?
like being an escapism, in the sense of like they want things to be cartoonishly evil, and cartoonishly good, and in those kind of shades. And then
No,
it's the
like the
that's
other
evil
half.
Spider Queen.
Alan Moore
Right, right.
fucked that up for all of us, buddy. We ain't never going back. It's
Yeah,
over.
yeah. Yeah, and then you have the other ones that they straight up address the issue, and I think those are the ones that end up being more effective. The ones that have something to say, and very similar to what GT was saying. It is very much about when they were written. I remember when She-Hulk came out, the show, and I had went and started reading some of her run. They had a very provocative story in there about
Yeah.
Star Fox using his powers to do stuff possibly against the will of women, which was not questioned ever, or else they would have never given them those damn powers, right? But now all of a sudden, under a new lens, this story shows up, and I'm like, there's no way this came out of nowhere. And it was written shortly after the whole like Duke Lacrosse whole situation with that team,
Oh yeah. Oh, okay.
and all that stuff that had been
For a
going on
moment
there
there,
with
I thought
sexual
Duke
assault.
Lacrosse was a name.
Oh no, like Ted Lasso.
Who is Duke Lacrosse?
Ted Lasso and Duke Lacrosse. Yeah, but it's like, there was some very serious questions going on around that time. And there was a lot of conversation going on around that time about sexual assault and stuff. And so they raised the question in She-Hulk. But usually, yeah, if something does hit you as like, wow, this is asking some pretty serious questions, it's probably because those are the questions that people are asking right now in the world, in the real world.
Yeah.
And yeah, I like the X-Men. So.
I have kids. I wouldn't want to hide them from real world issues to the point where I just only want them reading about fucking cartoon villains who tie people on the train tracks and twirl their mustache. I'd like to have them exposed maybe through these metaphor stories, or maybe through a comic book, or maybe something softer first, before I'm like, let's watch CNN and see, or before, on the other side of the spectrum, before I'm like, let's just cover our eyes and pretend it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
I think comic books could serve as a wonderful way to introduce younger people to real world issues, as they always have, and as I guess they always will.
Well, that's the other thing I was thinking about. You know how everyone says stuff like it's not that deep. For most of our childhood stuff, it's like it's not that shallow. Like you're remembering it as a very shallow kind of cartoonish thing. I remember when that alien wanted to genocide the planet of apes and kept talking about them all reckless and calling them dirty apes and stuff like that. Like I remember that. That was a thing. That was again thinly veiled. maybe not as an adult now, but like
Right.
yeah, as you remember it, yeah, things were so much more innocent back then. Like no, a lot of things we're trying to tackle, a lot of stuff, whether it went over your head or not, it's a whole other
I mean,
story.
Frieza's coloring is not exactly a son.
No,
I'm
no,
saying,
no. He
I'm saying
transforms.
John's taking
He
it.
transforms into several forms.
the planet Namek seems very familiar the entire time. You just can never put your finger on it, can you? I wonder why.
Oh dear. Oh dear. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
To another note, like about that sort of thing too, is like I'm a big fan. Obviously, you know this, George, because I campaigned for it. I'm a huge fan of that run of Sam Wilson Captain America books.
Yeah.
That first, those first few like volumes, like there is not much of a real central villain Sam has to find and punch. It's just
Right.
Sam fighting the system as it
Right.
is and as it propagates itself. Like there's a little bit of cartoony stuff mixed in with like the concept of the Americops, which really
Yeah.
isn't all that cartoony if you
No.
just pay attention to what's being put on the page.
100%.
But like other than that, it's him just trying to fight a battle of people who don't want him around and people who are doing their best to sabotage everything he does. And I still get emotional thinking about the what's that dude's name, Riot?
Yeah. Rage or
The kid who
it's one of those two.
huh?
Rage or Riot. It's Rage
It
or
might be
Riot.
Rage.
It's one of those two. Yeah.
Yes. And like he doesn't spoilers for the however your old comic, but like he like doesn't even survive the story.
No. No. And
But as a very
he's talking
real
and he's
story.
talking about an action. He's also talking about in action, from his perspective.
Yeah.
And whereas Sam Wilson is very much trying to be. It's almost everything levied against Obama when he was in thing. Is like you're in power now. You're supposed to change everything right now,
Right.
kind of stuff. And he's like, well, if I change everything right now, they're never gonna let anyone. Like we just got in the door. Like
Yeah. And the stuff with Rage and Sam Wilson is always going to be interesting because it's like to Rage, Sam Wilson looks like in action, even though we are watching Sam actively try.
Yeah. Yeah.
But to Rage, it's not in action because it is not a direct assault on the problem.
Right. Which is exactly what Fury was trying to do in this.
Yeah.
I what's the most interesting about that is that I wonder if in years when people read back if they're gonna see it as like a cartoonish over exaggeration of the current day problems, because when I read it I was just nodding. I was like, yep, that would totally happen. Yep, the news would turn on them. Yep, social media.
Yeah.
Yep. Click. Not my Captain America. Yeah. Oh, yeah. You're checking all the boxes for me. It really felt like of the time. With the fake news and everything that had been going on, the mudslinging and all politics and the dirtiness that happens, the riots and all that stuff. I thought really, really well covered.
I think sometimes we kind of feel like maybe we should just because it happens to me too. I bounce back and forth between nihilism and hope. It's like,
Yeah.
sometimes I'm
Depends on
like,
my mood.
it does. I mean, sometimes I'm just like, man, what is the point? Like they're all stupid, and you can't fix it. Like I can't make them smarter. You can't. It's not like sharing what actually helps them either, right?
Yeah.
Like you can try to understand all you want, but at a certain point when you're like, but this is very clear what I'm telling you, why aren't you absorbing it? It's because they're stuck in their ways. But at the same time, I feel like it is we have a responsibility to facilitate the change that we want just by doing it, just by being it. So
Yeah.
it's kind of like, I like to believe that these are all old-fashioned thought processes that can die out if the people that believe them just die by by old age, evolution.
Just the generational gap and change.
I really like to believe that this progressive push is a sign that when the people who are fighting back so hard against it just kind of die off, this will be
Mhm.
the way. This would be the way of the world, a more tolerant, a more progressive, and a more understanding
Yeah.
group of people.
And, and
Um,
and to some degree, we have seen some of that change in some ways.
we're getting there.
Yeah.
I think. I think sometimes. I think it's
It's
been
all
so
incremental,
aggressive.
of course.
I think it's always going to be a balance too. Just kind of.
Yeah.
But you just have to, as a person, you just be the person you want to be. Like it sounds so simple, right? Just be the
Yeah.
person you want other people to be.
And
Literally,
you know
just
what's funny?
exist as like you know.
If you guys think that that's like too rosy of a way to look at it, the way I look at it, I agree with you. Like we get to the same conclusion, but my thing is like pessimist and being pessimistic myself, like on occasion, just kind of brings you down. Pessimism just kind of brings you down. So like I try to challenge pessimism. My pessimistic voice says there's no good people out there. And so I challenge that by saying, well, there is good people out there. Well, besides the people I know, I'm challenging it all the way to the point of like, I'm going to even try to be one. You know what I'm saying? Like, I watch this, watch me be a good person. And now if people think that I'm a good person, then I'm also an example and evidence for them. I think a lot of people don't try to look positively because they've never seen anybody else that worked for anybody else, you know?
Mm.
In the world we live now where money rules everything, you kind of have to undercut everybody. You have to be the fastest liar and the biggest showman and the like compassion, empathy, these things don't necessarily make money. They don't
Yeah.
they're not something that is promoted to benefit. But the real thing is, even though we live in a very individualistic world, we are better together, we're stronger together, and that's when we don't have to do things like secret coups and lie to each other and drug each other and then stab life model decoys of each other. I think we should be in a better place in the world uh, because we are all doing this for the first time. Every single one of us, no matter who was born, everyone's doing this for the very first time, and it's
But
not easy.
but to bring it back to comics, I said all that stuff to say that as a creator, as a person that creates, you need to you should take it upon yourself. Like it's your responsibility to put those stories out there. Or to
Mm-hmm.
in the same way that it's your responsibility to just be, it's also your responsibility to just put those stories out there. And I mean, not to say that you're bad if you don't. You should,
Right.
live your life as you want.
Sure.
But also, if you really feel strongly about it, don't be discouraged by people who are reacting strongly because they're just not able to understand yet, or they never will. But there are
Yeah.
people who do, So think about them.
Yeah,
I
like
also
you're never going to reach the people who don't want to be reached.
yeah. But I think history will look back, and regardless of how your response is received, the fact that you did respond, the fact that you did have something to say, or you made these characters have something to say about these things that are going on, that gets remembered. People still talk about some of the racial things that they tackled in Green Lantern and Green Arrow, or the
Mm-hmm.
drug stuff, right? That they tackled with Speedy there, or that Spider-Man tackled.
My
Like these
ward is a
stories,
junkie.
yeah, this stuff still comes up because people remember these issues hitting and tackling something so real and so serious. So it's one of those things like dare to be a legend in that case, dare to bring some of that back.
Ah,
Uh,
I want to be the guy who made Speedy a crackhead.
Yeah,
My legacy. My legacy.
I
no,
think
this. Go ahead, brother.
when I think about it, because like I don't know what you were saying made me think of it. Um, one of my favorite things about that Superman versus the what is it, the Authority?
The
No,
The elite.
authority or
is it
versus
the Authority?
the elite.
The Elite,
Excuse me.
yes,
Yeah,
the Elite. Uh, Superman versus Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks.
there you go.
Um,
And Okada.
Kazuchika Okada and the Young Bucks. Excuse
what?
me.
Oh no, fuck you.
Oh yeah.
Um, like one of the interesting things that I didn't get the first time I saw it, and I was just like, oh, it's Superman versus these punk kids. It's sort of like if you're a smarter person or just like a person who gets better at the media literacy of it all. It's kind of just a story about like the light versus the disillusionment. Because
Yeah,
that's all the fucking the elite are is a bunch of disillusioned ass kids.
yeah. That's
Oh
the
yeah.
one thing that people don't really get about Batman. Batman's not disillusioned. If anything, he's still really weirdly optimistic. That's why he surrenders
Yeah.
people to the system. He
I
still
don't even
believes in the
think it's
system.
I don't even think it's weirdly optimistic. I think it's outwardly optimistic. I think he just
Yeah.
wears black and it's
I
all
think he has a
gray
weird way of being optimistic.
yeah. But he believes in Gotham so
Yes.
fucking much. Like there's no way you could be Batman without being an absolute optimist. Like because otherwise you
Yeah.
would just kill them all. Like you'd
Yeah.
really just kill them all.
That's what I'm saying though, but I feel like we in the world it's much more seen to be you want to be the Batman that people perceive, which is the one that preps 10 steps ahead, right? And you prep because you believed in the evil in people, right? You believe in Gotham, sure, but you also have 12 security gates on the Batcave, right? Like
It's
you
almost like
still
that's what that movie was about.
yeah, yeah.
I
Uh
am
that's why I'm
hope.
saying it's like as long as you're not suicide, bro. Oh my gosh.
Oh
Let's
my
not get
god.
there with Batman. Um, but yeah,
Red Sun.
I think if you're able to um use these characters, like I said, we're having a conversation about things we probably never would have had a conversation about purely because they use some of our favorite characters and put them right in the middle of a discussion that should be had. You know, at
Yeah.
least questioned, even if it's not going to have earth-shattering effects. But yeah, it takes good creative teams to dare to do something like that. And not like I said, I don't fault anyone for playing it safe, but what are these people for if not for to do whatever you want with them? Well, not in that way. Batman
Yeah.
doesn't kill. But
Like
yeah, it's a hard thing.
Rule
if
34, baby.
you know, like if you're gonna quote like play it safe, like I don't it wouldn't bother me if that's just like that's the stuff you believe in. You know, if
Yeah.
you're just a person who like I only want to write light and fluffy, silly comic books, like then do you,
Yeah.
right? Don't do it because you're scared,
Right.
you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
and don't run away from the thing.
I mean, you got to think with editorials so that they've got to have certain mandates. I got to believe, you know.
Well, yeah. It's strictly an artistic discussion, not like a business corporate one that comes with its own caveats and issues.
You horrible
Yeah.
piece of shit. How dare you have fun with your life?
No, it's gonna be interesting because I think I. Go ahead, brother.
No, yeah, it's gonna be a lot tougher to get your ideas through, the company mandates.
Yeah, and all these companies are eating each other, so like they're gonna be playing it super safe, and and not wanting to split the people down the middle with some of this stuff. But hopefully, there's more stories to tell from people who need their stories told. We're still dealing with a lot of craziness going on in this world, a lot of divisiveness going on in this world, which is very stupid because we're all kind of dumb and we should be on the same page. But it's about having that empathy, understanding at the very least where people are coming from. Because I don't think, me personally, I think this is also a side effect of being in or growing up in environments that are not necessarily great for you, like the hood on occasion. But it gets exhausting having your head on a swivel. It gets exhausting trying to plan for the next man, right? It's like I'm going to here. Let me make sure I have all my stuff in this pocket. Let me make sure I'm checking. Checking my book bag before and after getting off the train that is zipped up. Like it gets exhausting.
I mean, there's
kind of outthink humanity.
There's a bunch of stories, right, about the guys who were vets like you, and like you just you can never remove yourself from the threat assessment.
Right. Yeah, and so you get to that with Fury, but he actually has proof that things are actually badly going on. He's never going to sleep until he puts this to bed. You know, until he doesn't have to have his head on a swivel. And again, then he just pulls out another chessboard and goes on to a whole other game.
You may sleep, but you will never rest.
I missed that. That was so good. Luke Cage season 2. You ever seen Luke Cage season 2, Yogi?
No, I haven't. It was part of the that wave of shows that came out when
everything was when everything was already dead, and John was just like, "Well, fuck them all."
I was like, "How dare you? Like, how dare you even release this?"
Did you get to finish season 3 yet?
Was it 3?
No, for Daredevil. You said you were watching it from the beginning with your kid.
No, I didn't, because X-Men took priority. Like, it's coming out so much sooner.
Understood.
Yeah.
And now whatever's going on with that, jeez.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. We'll hopefully talk all about it. But yeah, get on Luke Cage season 2. I think it's pretty interesting. It goes into some interesting. It asks some interesting questions as well. There's some wonky moments because I just feel like that Marvel Netflix stuff, they had a real pacing issue. With all the good stuff they have a lot of great stuff, but their pacing was always, in my opinion, not great.
They have some wonky season 2s with the Marvel Netflix, but Luke Cage is one of the good ones.
I like Daredevil season 2. I don't know why everybody hates Daredevil.
No. I like Daredevil season 2. Punisher season 2, wonky.
Okay. That
Jessica Jones season 2,
I don't think.
Wonky.
I also didn't.
Jessica Jones season 2. I would even say like more than wonky. Like, I think it's probably one of the worst of all. Because Iron Fist season 2 is great as opposed to season 1 of Iron Fist, which was terrible.
I did like season 2, but I also am an asshole who never saw season 1.
What the fuck?
Finding out about each other on this podcast.
It wasn't that bad. Jesus.
I heard all the bad stuff about it, and then I only saw Defenders, and then I only saw Iron Fist season 2, and I was like, this Iron Fist guy ain't so bad. I was like, yeah, you didn't see the first one.
Come on, does he really have to put himself through that, Yogi? Does he really have to put himself through season 1?
I don't think you should put yourself through it, but you probably should see where you came from.
Yeah,
what happened to Kunlun? You left, asshole.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, he kept getting upset about what happened over there when there was this whole thing. Danny Rand got me very upset. But when they leave Luke Cage off in that last season, I thought it was pretty interesting. A pretty interesting part for that character. I thought they were going to do like a whole little Shadowlands sort of adaptation, but with Luke Cage instead of.
That is the one thing about like the Marvel stuff becoming canon that I'm big on. Like, okay, can I get a conclusion, please?
I did hear that they were maybe headed towards like that may have been the next big thing that the Defenders would have gotten together.
Shadowland?
Yeah, Luke Cage. What was he like? Was he running just the gang? Like, did he take over all the criminal shit in Harlem? Or?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so it wasn't like the hand. The hand was like.
He's saying he's the mediator, but they
between the hood and the hand.
The hood, and
between the hood themselves, because the hand is basically gone. Because they killed the hand.
That's what I was saying.
They killed the fingers of the hand in the yeah. So
shit.
There's another power vacuum that happens. Someone who has a lot of criminal power in Luke Cage season 2 kicks the bucket, thus giving him the option of either allowing this empty spot to be filled by anyone or allowing it to be filled by him. And then from that moment, he starts to become the middleman and facilitator between the gangs, and then you get a direct.
It's basically just like,
the Godfather.
If I'm Luke Cage, like Luke Cage is just thinking, if I don't do it, then that's another 5 people I have to punch in the face.
Yeah,
that's an interesting. I can just stand here and punch nobody.
If they wanted to bring that in, they also had that Mayor Fisk thing going at the same time. That'd be two interesting things to have coexisting.
That's a new wrinkle for that,
in that world. Oh yeah.
I actually remember strictly. I was the one who pitched Luke Cage Shadowland in here.
Yeah.
It's funny because like Shadowland's not a great book, but
no, not at all.
That was one of the first trade paperbacks that I ever bought.
Yeah,
Shadowland.
Oh wow!
I wasn't on purpose. It was because I got told the guy I'm looking for all the latest like, give me the latest Marvel event books. And he fucking pulled
And then
Shadow.
you came back and he was like, you didn't say good.
They're snobs. They think nothing is good.
What's interesting is I just think it's basically, you know, like Injustice or whatever on a smaller scale, in the sense of like what happens when one hero feels like he has to go to greater lengths to stop, you know, bad guy. Then he becomes like possession and a whole bunch of other stuff that not necessary. But
That's where
I
you
thought,
lost me.
yeah,
That
the
I
possession.
like
Possession,
that.
right?
Yeah, because I like that he, you know, Bullseye kills all those people in Hell's Kitchen, and he's like, Hell's Kitchen, like, you hurt my Hell's Kitchen, you killed all these people in my place, and he's given the opportunity, and he makes the choice himself. And I was like, that's really interesting stuff.
Yeah.
But then when you give it over to magic and
Once you've
bullshit,
removed the burden of the choice, then
get the fuck out of here.
like you've taken all the interesting stuff out of what he's done.
It's a cartoon now.
But like,
Yeah.
It's a cartoon, but also like you've attempted to absolve him, and now he has to face no real recompense about what he did because he wasn't,
Right.
you know.
Yeah, he was in control.
Yeah.
I thought it could be really cool, you know, if Daredevil goes to like bust up you know, a drug deal and like Luke Cage is there. He's like, I'm here to make sure it goes through, you know. And then they're like, what do you mean? He's like, bro, it would be way worse if you don't.
Dude, not in public.
Yeah, you know, it'd be way worse. And I thought that eventually they'll have to take him down. You know, all the defenders would have to eventually find a way to take Luke Cage down.
But I guess how do you write your way out of there, right? You just let the defenders.
I wish I remembered my original pitch.
It's like you just let them be wrong. I mean, that's how I would do it. Like I wouldn't even make an attempt.
You are wrong.
I think you do.
I'd leave it to the reader. Yeah, I would just leave it to the viewer, reader, person. You know, like you make the decision yourself. Like who's right, who's wrong.
I do think
circumstance is what it is.
I think that decision is much easier in like comics because things last longer.
Yeah.
You know, I think making that sort of decision is a long-term decision because you have to deal with you have to, you know, commit to the dark path and then you have to commit to the redemption.
You could put him in character prison for like 5 years.
Right, like you don't always know that you have the time to do it.
Yeah. And if he gets to the conclusion of his lesson, you know, like in an hour, you're like, what was this? Oh yeah, I shouldn't have done all that illegal things. Yes, Luke. Yes, we've all figured it out. But I hope you guys have figured out that we have conversations like this each and every week as a part of the Major Issues podcast. And it's DirtSheet Radio Month. We got a whole DirtSheet Radio Month. We're back next week to cover Ultimates.
We are covering Ultimates issues 1 through 6, part 1.
I have never read this.
Fun time. Get the fuck out of here! You never read this?
Never read this. I saw the animated.
Have you ever seen the animated movie?
I have seen the animated movie.
Okay. I was gonna say you got to see that.
Oh, you're doing those Ultimates?
Yeah, the real Ultimates, the original Ultimates, the Ultimate Avengers.
Oh, I thought you were doing the other.
Marvel. We'll do those.
The one with Shannon.
Yeah, don't get me started because if you start the Al Ewing train, it doesn't stop. You gotta read. You gotta read the Ultimates, then you gotta read Beyonders, then you gotta read Beyond Defenders, then you gotta read the one time he got this book because they canceled the last book and he refuses to let go of the
I was thinking of the Ultimate Avengers book.
It is that book.
The Ultimate Universe Avengers book called the Ultimates.
Yes.
Yeah. That's what it was called. The Mark Miller book when it first came out. They just named the cartoon Ultimate Avengers because, you know, marketing.
That one looks different in my head because Cap has a different shield and
his chin straps are all off.
It's the what do you think this A on my head stands for?
France.
Yeah.
That's
why I kind of like that they're referred to as the Ultimates because they feel like the ultimate version. You know, like woo. The
Yeah,
ultimate version of those
No, but
characters.
then
Cap is a massive dickhead in those books.
Yeah.
no, but then fucking they reveal old Avengers in the universe that aren't the Ultimates. It's like another group of people that Nick Fury brings together and they fight the
Uh,
Ultimates. That's how Spider
I
Man
mean,
dies. The Ultimates were at war with the Avengers and they fucking shot Spider Man.
oh, I thought Green Goblin got his ass.
No, he gets it
no,
after. He gets
no.
shot first.
Goblin
Ah,
is the first big. Goblin's the first big tease, but like he survives the Goblin fight. Like the tragedy of the actual Peter Parker death in the Ultimates is that it's an errant bullet.
ah,
Fucking assholes. Yeah.
like they got Uncle Ben. No. No. Well, we'll be covering Ultimates and then do a power bomb just in time for WrestleMania season. Cannot wait to cover all these stories. And we are quite literally covering the latest and greatest things to come to comic books and comic book media on the Major Issues podcast. 2 weeks ago, we covered 8 billion genies on a whim. Now it's becoming a film, people. So yeah, we're picking some of these great stories that are affecting media, and you always got to remember where they came from first. So go ahead and support your local comic book shops. Buy every comic book you can. The stuff is worth it, and you can always give it to a loved one. Like I said, giving a book to someone is a love language. Sharing these stories, and we loved sharing this one with you guys. But we do this each and every week as part of the Major Issues podcast, brought to you by ComicBookClique.com. You can go to ComicBookClique.com for everything Comic Book Clique, and some pretty cool stuff in the future.
Even more.
Oh man, I'm
more.
sorry to cut you off because this is your outro, and this is
No, you're good,
we
bro.
do.
You're good, bro.
Because I just saw it on my phone, and I don't, I want to make sure we addressed it. As a comic book podcast, some of us, I think, come into this from different directions,
Right.
and I want to make sure if I haven't forgotten it that we address the sort of elephant in the room when it comes to comic books and in some cases manga.
Yeah. I was
Um,
gonna say something earlier, but I didn't know if we should.
No,
Take
we
it.
totally can.
I feel like we should
totally
because it's
should.
now.
Yeah.
I'm not the guy to do it, to be completely honest. I came into Dragon Ball Z. I just started watching Dragon Ball like literally a few months ago. Um, uh, I came into it in a completely different way, but I have an appreciation for it, and I had lots of friends who were into it, and people who swore by it in ways that I know means a lot to people. I know the recent passing of Akira Toriyama affected a lot of comic book fans in a lot of huge ways, and I can only say that Akira Toriyama's work influenced one of my favorite moments in comic books ever, with Jorge Jimenez writing about Superman fighting to save his family in one of the most awesome panels I've ever seen.
Right.
And just knowing that that was inspired by like Goku and Gohan fighting against Cell is a very interesting through line for me.
Right.
And I didn't want to end the episode without us talking about what effect that had, not only on like whatever our listeners, but on us.
Yeah, no, I think that makes a lot of sense. Tremendous influence, not only on American animation, but American comic books. There's lists right now going on online of various little references in your favorite movies, or your favorite cartoons to stuff that's been done in Dragon Ball Z, Dragon Ball.
We got to watch the New Day come out as Saiyans.
Yeah. The bar does the fusion dance when they come out.
Yes, they did.
And
recently so did Zelina Vega and Naomi.
Yep. So it's Dragon Ball Z permeated every bit of my childhood, in the sense that like when I was in school, all we did was try to draw them. When I was out of school, like when the bell rang, we would like hang out and talk, but only up until a certain time that we knew that we had where we could run home and catch Dragon Ball Z. Because if you didn't, this wasn't on DVR and it wasn't taping these things. So if you missed one of these episodes, you'd be thrown off, and you'd have to figure out where the hell what happened to everybody, or you go to school the next day and everyone will be talking about it, and you feel like crap because you don't know what's going on.
Oh, you hope some friend of yours taped it.
Yeah. I've played random obscure Japanese Dragon Ball Z video games from various systems that I had like Game Sharks
Dragon Ball
for.
GT Final Tour.
Yeah,
I remember.
that's I believe that's one with a huge lineup in the front. There was tag team ones, then all the actual American ones. I would watch that show over and over again, and kind of the other reason why I would is because for some strange reason it would like do the Saiyan saga, and then it would, at the end of the Saiyan saga, it would just restart and then do the Saiyan saga and then the Frieza saga, and then just restart and then do the Saiyan saga, the Frieza saga, the Cell saga. And for some reason in syndication, it just drug out. I don't know if it was just taking long to translate from Japan, because one of my friends would watch the anime version and be like, "Oh, I totally know what happens next," and like, and I'm like, "How do you? That's so cool. How do you know what happens in the? Oh yeah, it's in the books. They have books about this stuff." I'm like, "What do you mean they have books?" Like, yeah, but it's in Japanese.
What are books? No, I'm kidding.
Sounding all cool. Last thing I'll say is that while I loved it in my youth, and like I said, drew it, freaking played the video games or watched it, binged it to death. When I joined the military, we have a lot of time on our hands, and
hurry up and wait, they say.
Hurry up and wait. I worked 12-hour shifts, and then we had 12 hours off, and it's not like you can go to the bar, right? So you end up finding a lot of things you want to do with your fellow soldier, as far as like movies to watch or gym regimens to get into or all kinds of stuff. But I got an emulator on my laptop, and I got Budokai 3, and no one wanted to really play because they didn't understand what the game was or who these people were in it. So I decided to get two of my fellow soldiers into Dragon Ball Z from the very beginning all the way to the end. And not only do they still thank me for it, but like there's like in jokes like of who likes who and who thinks who's more powerful, and arguments and stuff that we've had in the past about power levels and all this other kind of stuff. But I think of the contributions that this man has made, and I think of the outpouring and the mourning that the world has gone through. I felt like the reason why all it affected me is it felt like everything he did was so personal to me. And it's very unique to have a worldwide experience where everyone felt like the art and the story and what was said. And maybe that says more about the universal human experience than it does anything else, and his ability to tap into that. But if at least for me, that's what I'm gonna remember. I remember the spirit bomb, gesture of just people lending their energy, finally, giving some back to him after he gave so much to us for all these years. So definitely rest in peace to a legend. And I'll hand it over to Yogi because I know he's got a lot of thoughts.
I guess bear with me for a second. I haven't really spoken about it. It affected me a lot more than I could have imagined, honestly. I don't know that I ever really considered him dying. Like it was just this ever existing presence that sometimes drops us gifts from his mind. Like
Akira Toriyama was more of an idea of nature than a man.
No, and I mean that like I don't even, not as an exaggeration, like a literal, like a god figure, not like a warship, but like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like
this
Santa.
deity that's, like, yeah, like Santa,
Like
who
Santa doesn't
sometimes
die.
blesses us, And when they
Yeah.
tried to take his product, they tried to touch his toys without his
Approval.
involvement.
Yeah.
It just wasn't the same. So I mean,
They
that
lacked the magic.
beyond that, like it, you hit the nail on the head when you mentioned how cool it was to find out that the world kind of had the same person, so it very personal, deep rooted experience with Dragon Ball, or with not just Dragon Ball, with Chrono Trigger and Dragon
Yep.
Quest and Doctor Slump and all his other works. Like it's been so healing for me personally, because I Dragon Ball Z, Dragon Ball, it's the Dragon Ball franchise for my whole life. It started as a childhood like everybody else, but I mean, it's been at the forefront of my mind for as long as I can remember being a sentient person. Like I discovered it in the year 2000. So it's been 24 years of just it being like my number one thing. It's like I it was just so cool to find out that there were millions of us, literally millions of us. I have so much to say, but I haven't been able to really put it together yet. I don't know if I can put it together yet right
Yeah.
now either. But when I think when I think about just how much it meant to me, how much it meant to my family, and how much it meant to me to pass it on to my son, and then how much it ended up meaning to him, and how much it might end up meaning to my grandchildren.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It it
Which,
it's
if I may say, is an unpredictable thing because you have no
you just
control of
never
what your
know.
children like that
I
you
never
like.
knew. I never knew that I would be able to live in this world where this story was so fucking powerful that it went through me and right into my ball sack
Oh,
and
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah.
into my actual DNA. Like it's in my
God damn.
DNA. This was his first show. Like my son's first show was Dragon Ball Super. Watching it, like the
Okay.
first show that he ever watched week to week from episode 1 to episode 131. 2.5 years of learning how to read. We were watching subtitled. I think he was
Yeah.
fucking 6. So like it was it's a big it means a lot to me. His works affected me, guided my hand through adulthood, taught me how to be the man that I am. Literally, I don't know how to explain that in words. Just the idea that if this person didn't exist, I would not be me. Like that's
Right.
a
Yeah.
lot.
You would be a
That's
version of you don't recognize.
I would not be this person. There would be nothing. I don't know that there would be a dirt sheet radio. I don't know that I would read comic books. I don't know who I would be. I can't even
Right.
imagine how if he hadn't just on a whim decided that, man, I'm sick of coloring this motherfucker's hair black every time I draw this picture. Like, let's just make him blonde. Like if he had
Yeah.
if he hadn't thought of things like that on a whim, I wouldn't be me. That fucks me up, honestly. It does. It's really hard to talk about. I've been planning on talking about it when I can, though.
And now I
This is
feel
probably-
bad because I backed you into a corner.
No, I mean, this is probably as much as I
You
can
now
get
just
out
figured
about
out our
You
secret. Our secret
God
war.
damn gaslighting theory, juniors. But yeah, no, I mean, thank you for bringing it up. I can't thank him enough. Honestly, it's a weird thing because I never met him, and like he doesn't know me, and I feel weird
Right.
feeling this strongly about someone who doesn't know I exist. But like I said, it was just such a real healing experience finding out that it was so many of us who took it this way. Like
Yeah.
it changed it kind of changed the way I saw this show. Like I didn't think I could love Dragon Ball more. Like literally, it could not be possible. But somehow coming out of the other side of this global mourning, it's like even more beautiful. Like it's even more iconic. It's just taking a whole new place on a pedestal that I can't even see from where I'm sitting. It's uh like I said, that's
Yeah.
probably as much as I could talk about it
Yeah,
now.
the two things from that I want to respond to. One, I thought the most amazing thing I would never have imagined, especially because like we don't tend to mourn in America for things the way other people do. The crowds of people that like gathered in Mexico
Yeah.
to
Thousands,
put their hands up
thousands
and lend their
Yeah.
energy, like
in tears
wow,
too. Like
yeah,
people crying like in tears. It was yeah, it's beautiful.
that was an incredible thing just to see. Like it's just not something you believe would take place in real life and that several thousand of people would agree to, but it was something that affected those people in those ways, and it was also like it wasn't a random thing. It was already a built-in community because there were crowds of Mexican people that would watch this Japanese show. And
Hmm.
if there's ever any fucking argument for a certain level of globalism, it's that.
Yeah.
I think they had it first. I think they got their dub before we did too.
I
But
believe it. I believe it. You know, um, and because because especially because you guys have given me like some heat for it, and I've seen heat for it from some of the social media stuff. I I am the asshole who, because somebody introduced me almost unsolicitedly to
Yeah.
DBZ abridged, I watched Dragon Ball Super as it came out.
Oh yeah.
That shows the reason I got interested in Dragon Ball.
Check that out.
he still had it. God damn it! Yeah, all those years
Yeah.
later, he was still putting
Yeah.
the heat out. Hey, I mean, he did the Ultra Instinct stuff resonates with me and my son as much as the original Super Saiyan stuff did.
Yeah.
They still had the sauce, man.
So
I
like
gotta.
I there's something good to be taken from that too, like because even though the first version of it I saw was a parody that I didn't even expect to like that much,
I mean,
it made me interested in the show.
if you want to hear something blasphemous, there's
Blasphemous.
parts of the original dub that almost are a parody of what was originally intended, like in the Japanese version. So it's not so different, like
Nice.
you still get the story across with the abridged stuff. I feel, but
You do a lot of it, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, as you guys are saying, and just when I think of Dragon Ball Z, I think of Dragon Ball. I think of Goku. I think the one word that I think everyone could agree with is perseverance. Getting through, gritting your teeth and just climbing up that hill. Step by step, and it's something that his characters have always portrayed. That perseverance is something he had in his own life, drawing all the way up until his death, still working on projects, still, planning things out for the future. So that's one thing I'm definitely going to take away from him. And the second thing is that, you have to put out, if you have something to say and it just happens to come out artistically, you almost have to put that stuff out because you don't know if there's somebody else who wants to say the same thing or wants to hear the same thing and doesn't know that other people are feeling that or seeing that or experiencing that. And his ability to put some of that stuff, whether it's characters with doubt that they're not the strongest or, characters with shame because of where they've come from, and overcoming those sort of situations to then inspire youth to overcome their own insecurities. Like, with great power and sometimes being an artist in various forms is great power, comes great responsibility. It's up to you to then put that stuff out. And I think that also speaks to what we were talking about before about, daring to. put it all out there when you got to, because once you do, your energy gets trapped in whatever art form you put out, and it stays palpable. It stays pure. It stays 100 proof, no matter how many times you take it in. So, yeah, thank you so much. And I guess we will close out the bar. It's closing time, people. You can find you can find everything that we do at across social media. Just look up ComicBookClique, Facebook.com/ComicBookClique, Instagram at ComicBookClique. Use that hashtag ComicBookClique to talk about the newest, hottest, latest, and greatest things to come to comic books and comic book media. I'm at a Major Issue CBC on Twitter, also at Major Issue CBC on Twitch. There's 3 ways that you can help support us. The first way is to go to comicbookclique.com, hit that shop CBC button, and it'll take you to our TeePublic store where you can buy merchandise designed by me, and we get a kickback. Just, pennies on the dollar, but it helps us afford some stuff here. If you just want to give us just the dollars and not the pennies, consider going to patreon.com/CBC Clubhouse and becoming a patron on Patreon. Now I got hiccups. We're going, consider throwing some smeckles our way, because it helps us keep the lights on here and afford the hardware and the software that we need to keep providing you guys content free of charge. We do the Major Issues podcast every week. We do major previews every month. There's a new episode out right now covering the March solicitations. It took me a bit of time because I forgot how short February was. Don't blame me. And yeah, I think I've done majority of the plugs. Facebook.com/ComicBookClique. Yeah, keep the conversation going. All of these links up will be in the show notes, but our gentlemen here are from DirtSheet Radio. We're going to put the link tree in the show notes as well, in the description of this episode, so you can find out everything that these guys are doing over there. Is there anything else you guys would like to plug?
Well, if you're interested in pro wrestling, but also in the world of pop culture, film, video games, make your way over to DirtSheet Radio. Follow us on the social medias, Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, pretty soon Twitch and Discord, but we haven't got there yet. We are also streaming every single weekday and on certain weekends, immediately after every single major pro wrestling show of the week. Monday night after Raw, Tuesday night after NXT, Wednesday night after Dynamite, Thursday night after Impact, Friday night after SmackDown, and on certain weekends when pay-per-views are airing. So definitely check those out. And also stay tuned for some very, very huge news from DirtSheet Radio.
Yes. I'm anticipating some huge news in the future, because I've been to the future where we do become the latest and greatest things to come to comic books and comic book media, but I can't tell you how we do it, because next thing you know, after this whole reboot, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson is Nick Fury, and
I knew it was going to be The Rock again. God damn it!
I don't think I can handle that.
Heading back here.
He's ahead of the table, man. He's ahead of some tables. But yeah, just get on the bandwagon before the bandwagon gets full. There's great stuff happening over at DirtSheet Radio. There's great stuff happening over at ComicBookClique, and you guys want to be here before we don't remember you guys' names. Be one of the first ones to come in. Be one of the regulars to come into the bar.
No new friends. No new friends.
No.
Yes. The new friends are the ones that we send to Liberia, and you don't want to know what happens when
oh no.
over there. But my name is
Distraction Team.
Oh yeah, Distraction Extraction. My name is George Serrano, aka the Don.
I'm Gregory Thomas, aka GT Rebirth.
It's John Escudero, aka Yogi.
And they did that on their first try. And remember, whether or not you've tricked your friends into helping you with a coup, or a jerk when you get drunk on a plane, or see, now you got me cracking up, or don't know that you're stronger than you truly are. Remember that we are the Clique, and always remember that you, yes, you are worthy.